Chapter 6052. I don't like you. Wu Lu's expression immediately changed, and he did not speak for a long time. He recalled that when Yin Chang and the other two had returned from the heavy cloud continent, they had indeed indirectly asked him about Yun Fengjin and Yi Lan. At that time, he was still wondering why they were interested in this matter. It turned out that they did not have good intentions. Why did they do this? That's right, Yin Chang and the other two were very close to Yin Ji, and Yin Ji was Wu Lang's disciple. Perhaps this matter was instigated by Wu Lang. Good Wu Lang. This matter was originally forced on him, and now he deliberately exposed it, so that he would be scolded. He was really going too far. After a long while, Wu Lu asked, "Is what you said true? Did the three of them really expose this matter? Are there really many people who are dissatisfied with this matter?" Of course it's true. According to Yin Chang and the others, those two people were suspected of being the reincarnation of the demon race for no reason, and were imprisoned. How wicked is that? Many people are saying that the 10,000 Buddha's Sacred Hall is a fake charity. You, Wu Lu, are a fake monk and a real devil. Crack. The tea table in front of Wu Lu was immediately turned into dust, and his face was livid. Damn it. Hei Xinjiu cursed in her heart. I told you to imprison my parents. I should have pissed you off to death. Although that was what the fellow was thinking, he pretended to say, "Master Wu Lu, your anger will hurt you greatly. Calm down quickly. It's my fault for talking too much. I shouldn't have brought up the matter. However, why did the unlucky job fall on you? Aren't you bullying the honest people?" After a while, Wu Lu finally calmed down and said angrily, "This was arranged by Wu Lang. What can I do? The most hateful thing is that Yin Chang and the other two scum. They actually made this matter known. I'm not done with them." Yun Chujiu echoed Wu Lu's scolding of Wu Lang, Yin Chang and the other two, then changed the topic. "Master Wu Lu, you said that the two people locked up are really the reincarnation of the demon race? The array formation of the Yin family's ancestral tomb can sense the aura of the demon race. They triggered the array formation, so there's a high chance that they are the reincarnation of the demon race. It's just that they haven't awakened the memories of the demon race yet," Wu Lu said. "That's not right. Didn't you say that they haven't awakened the memories of the demon race yet? Since they haven't awakened the memories, where did the aura of the demon race come from?" Yun Chujiu asked in confusion. After saying that, Yun Chujiu also felt a little suspicious. She had neglected this point before. Since her parents hadn't awakened the memories of the demon race, why would they trigger the array? Wu Lu, who was already suffering from paranoia, immediately blamed Wu Lang. He snorted coldly and said, "Who knows what's going on? Maybe Wu Lang set me up on purpose. How outrageous." Yun Chujiu was afraid that Wu Lang would be suspicious, so she did not continue this topic. She said a few more words before returning to her own place. She opened the spiritual sense connection with Sha Emo and asked, "Let me ask you, will the reincarnation of a demon, who has not awakened the memories of the demon race, have the aura of the demon race?" Sha Emo curled his lips. "Do you think that we demons are fools? Of course not. If there were, wouldn't we be living targets? Then under what circumstances would humans be contaminated by the demon race's aura? What are you up to again? Let me tell you the truth. It would be very difficult for you lowly humans to be contaminated by our demon race's noble aura. Unless what? Unless you have intercourse with us demons, only then can you be contaminated by the demon race's aura. You can't be thinking about me, right? Let me tell you, I don't fancy a dried-up girl like you. Don't even think about it." Chapter 6053. Buddha's candle that forages for food on its own. Hei Xinjiu reacted for a long time before she understood Sha Mo's meaning. She was too lazy to scold Sha Mo. It was most likely that he had been trapped for a long time, which was why he had become an old fool. Is there no other way? Sha Mo thought for a moment and said, "There is. Not to mention the reincarnation of the demons. Even the lowly human beings like you can trigger a small amount of devil chi because of some special events. However, such events are very rare." "What do you mean by special events?" "That's hard to say. It might be because they came into contact with a powerful demon tool. Or they might have come into contact with the demon race with a high cultivation level, or they might have eaten food or pills that could trigger the demon chi. However, this kind of situation is very rare. Why are you asking about this? Shaimo finally became intelligent and asked vigilantly. Yin Chujio ignored him and directly cut off the spiritual sense connection. Shaimo almost died from anger. Yin Chujio held her chin and repeatedly pondered the information in Shaimo's words. She was now convinced of the words of the god and demon race. Only in this way could she explain why the human race could also stimulate the demonic chi. The human race was the descendant of the god and demon race. Although they had been separated from the god and demon race, they still had a weak demon bloodline in their bodies, which was why they could be stimulated under special circumstances. It seemed that her parents were not necessarily demons. Perhaps they were real humans, but for some reason, they had activated a weak demon aura. Master Liaowu had told her that an eminent monk of the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall had deduced that the Yun family would have a reincarnation of a demon high-ranking official. If her parents were not demons, could it be that the demon high-ranking official was her? Her parents might have offended the demon clan's aura because of her. Then, what kind of awesome person was she in her previous life? Although the pretty boy had guessed that she was the demon emperor, Shaimo had denied it. Who was she? While Hei Shinjio was pondering, the voice of Buddha's candle suddenly came to her mind. I suddenly remembered that there is a place in the 10,000 Buddha's sacred palace where the psyche power is particularly strong. Quickly let me out, and I will go and take care of it. Do you want to die? If those monks discover you, your good days will come to an end, Yin Chujio said unhappily. Don't worry, those two guys and I were originally from the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall. Later on, we were rewarded with the bitter Zen sect. Therefore in addition, they and I practice psyche power. They won't be able to discover me. I'll bring those two guys along too. Maybe they'll wake up, and you'll also know what happened in your previous life. One had to admit that Buddha's candle was very smart. The last sentence he said moved Hei Shinjio. Even so, Yin Chujio was still worried. After all, Buddha's candle was not very reliable. He had done a lot of mischief in the Zen sect. When Buddha's candle saw that Yin Chujio would not let go, he howled and made a fuss. He almost rolled over and hanged himself. Yin Chujio was annoyed by the Buddha's candle's ruckus. In addition, the Buddha's candle had repeatedly promised that it would not be a demon. So she gave the breaking dawn bell, and she won wooden fish to the Buddha's candle, and let it go to look for food on its own. 2 days passed in a row, but the Buddha's candle still did not return. However, from time to time, it would gloat and report back. It was just that it was full, and its luck had turned around. Yin Chujio asked where it had gone, but the Buddha's candle did not want to tell her. Yin Chujio was too lazy to ask. After all, the Buddha's candle belonged to the 10,000 Buddha's temple. It was normal for it to eat some psyche power, so it could be considered as keeping it to itself. Chapter 6054 Pagoda Forest. That evening, Hei Shinjio was having dinner when the stuttering voice of Buddha's candle came from her spiritual sense. Ba Buddha. It's good, it's good. Knowing your mistakes can improve the situation greatly. The sea of bitterness is boundless. When you turn back, you will be at the shore. Yin Chujio's heart skipped a beat. Speak human language. Well, I might have 80% probably caused trouble for you, Buddha's candle said guiltily. Yin Chujio gritted her teeth and asked, what kind of trouble did I cause? Buddha's candle replied hesitantly, You'll find out soon enough. Actually, it's not my fault. It's all that old bald donkey Wu Lang's fault. Yin Chujio did not have the time to complain about how Buddha's candle addressed Wu Lang. Just as she was about to ask further, Ling Tian's voice sounded from outside the door. Vice Principal Yin, something big seems to have happened in the myriad Buddha sacred palace. Yin Chujio felt her head buzz. If even Ling Tian knew about it, one could imagine how big the disaster was. She walked outside and asked, what happened? It's not good for our people to get too close, but we heard that it's very noisy over there. It seems to be a huge mess. Ling Tian and the rest's activity area was limited to the vicinity of this courtyard, so there was no way for them to know the exact situation. Yun Chujio took a deep breath and said, "Guard the courtyard well, I'll go take a look." Yun Chujio asked Buddha's candle as she ran. "Tell me what's going on." Buddha's candle stammered. "I really didn't do anything. I was just absorbing spiritual energy in the pagoda forest. I don't know if I absorbed too much, but those stone pagodas are all crooked." Yun Chujio staggered and almost fell to the ground. There was a pagoda forest at the back of the main peak of the 10,000 Buddha temple. To put it bluntly, those stone pagodas were tombs. All the eminent monks of the 10,000 Buddha temple would be buried in the stone pagodas after they passed away. The disciples of the same generation would be buried in the same stone pagodas. After a long time, the back of the mountain would form a pagoda forest. What was the difference between Buddha's candle and digging someone's ancestral grave? "You really wronged me. I was absorbing psyche power in the forest of pagodas. Besides, even if I wanted to enter the stone tower, I wouldn't be able to. However, that old bald donkey Wu Lang went in these past few nights. It might be his doing." Buddha's candle said angrily. Yun Chujio's heart moved. "You said that Master Wu Lang has been in the stone tower these past few nights? Which stone tower did he enter?" "He enters a different tower every day. He's sneaky. He must have done something bad." "Why did he go in?" "How would I?" "But it must be something shameful. Otherwise, why would he go in the middle of the night every time? Then why didn't you tell me earlier?" Buddha's candle said with a guilty conscience. I was afraid that if I told you, you wouldn't let me eat my fill." Yun Chujio couldn't be bothered to settle the score with Buddha's candle. She warned, "You hide well. Don't be discovered. I'll go there immediately." While Yun Chujio and Buddha's candle communicated with their spiritual senses, they ran forward with the crowd. The monks didn't seem to be in the mood to pay attention to such an impostor. They continued to rush forward. After a few turns, they arrived at the back of the main peak of the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall. Not far away was a forest of pagodas. The stone pagodas were not too tall, only about 30 feet in height. Usually, they were blocked by the tall trees around them, making it difficult for outsiders to peek at them. The stone pagodas were all over the place. Although they did not collapse, it seemed that they were about to. Yun Chujio narrowed her eyes. According to Buddha's candle, the collapse of these stone pagodas should not have much to do with it. The problem should be with Wu Lang. What exactly was his purpose in entering the stone pagodas? Chapter 6055 added to the list of sins. Just as Yun Chujio was feeling puzzled, Master Wu Lang arrived with Wu Lu and the others. The expressions on their faces were very grave. They entered the pagoda forest to take a closer look, but they could not find the reason why the pagoda forest was slanted. Master Wu Lang suddenly shouted sternly, "Wu Zhao, why aren't you kneeling down? You must have changed the rules of the scripture depository on your own accord, which caused this catastrophe. You are the sinner of the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall." Master Wu Zhao never thought that Master Wu Lang would blame him for what happened in the pagoda forest. This was completely unrelated, all right? When Master Wu Lang saw Master Wu Zhao, he became even more stern. "Wu Zhao, didn't you hear what I said? Are you trying to watch the pagoda forest collapse?" Wu Zhao agreed with Master Wu Lang immediately. "Wu Zhao, senior brother sect leader is right. It must be because you secretly changed the rules of the library pavilion and went against the patriarch's wishes. That's why the patriarch used the pagoda forest to warn you. Aren't you going to kneel down and beg for forgiveness?" Wu Lu frowned. "Senior brother sect leader, I think there must be another reason for this matter. Senior brother Wu Zhao didn't do anything out of the ordinary. How could there be such a serious consequence?" Wu Yin also advised from the side. "Yes, there must be a misunderstanding. Although senior brother Wu Zhao has changed the rules of the library, it is also because of the urgency of the matter. After the scripture is aired, it will return to normal." After listening to the persuasion of the two people, not only did Wu Lang not calm down, but his face became even uglier. He said sternly, "You don't have to say anymore. The Tower Forest didn't get into trouble sooner or later, but something happened at this juncture. It must be because of the matter of the library. Wu Zhao, from today onwards, You will kneel in the pagoda forest and recite the scriptures to atone for your sins. When the pagoda forest returns to normal, you will return to the front. Wu Lu and Wu Yin looked at each other. Wasn't this a disguised form of imprisonment? Could it be that Wu Lang had discovered their matter and was the first to make trouble? It shouldn't be. They were just a little closer to Wu Zhao. They hadn't done anything yet. Master Wuzhou's eyes were bloodshot. Even if Yun Chujio had deceived him, he hadn't relented for the sake of the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall. However, Wu Lang was pressing him step by step. He was really going too far. Senior brother sect leader, you can't convict me just because of your words. I don't feel that I have done anything wrong. If I did, you wouldn't be able to escape the blame. You clearly know that the scripture depository's task of drawing scriptures is very heavy, but you didn't assign me any manpower. I had no choice but to come up with this idea. If you want to forgive me, I'll count you in. Master Wu Lang didn't expect the usually quiet Master Wu Zhao to bite him back. He sneered and said, "Nonsense. You were clearly the one who rejected the manpower I assigned to you and insisted on doing things your own way. But now you're framing me. You don't have to say anything more. From today onwards, you will recite the scriptures here to atone for your sins. The scripture depository will be handed over to Wu Zhou." Master Wu Zhao was so angry that his entire body was trembling. He understood that Master Wu Lang was determined to imprison him. He originally thought that by tolerating every step he took, he would be able to exchange for peace and quiet. He didn't expect that what he got in return was a disaster. Wu Lu and Wu Yin were unable to use their strength. They were so anxious that their foreheads were covered in sweat. The two of them could not help but feel a little regretful. If they had known earlier, they would not have been on good terms with Wu Zhao. In the future, Wu Lang would definitely give them a hard time. The two of them involuntarily took 2 steps back and did not make a sound. Master Wu Lang saw the performance of the two of them and sneered in his heart. Wu Zhao, this good-for-nothing, could not defeat him in the past. Now he was still not his opponent. He only needed to use a few tricks to make him fall into the dust. Chapter 60-56. Get out of the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall at this moment, a clear voice sounded. Master Wu Lang is indeed wise and wise. This punishment is too correct. Wu Zhao suddenly turned his head and saw He Xinjiu who was speaking. The veins on his forehead popped up. She was the one who came up with the idea, but now she was speaking up for Wu Lang. This little girl had a heart of a snake and a scorpion. Yin Li and the others also looked at Yin Chujio angrily. They even guessed in their hearts that this Yin Qingqing was originally one of Master Wu Lang's people. Was she deliberately setting a trap for them? Master Wu Lang's face revealed a cold smile of understanding. She was just a little girl on the fence, so she naturally knew which side to stand on. However, when he heard what Yin Chujio said next, he couldn't smile anymore. Sect Master Wu Lang, I think it's not enough to just let Master Wu Zhao kneel here. After all, many disciples have helped to dry the scriptures of the scripture pavilion before. If you want to forgive me, it's best to kneel here and recite the scriptures. Only then can the pagoda forest return to normal. Yin Chujio's words were like poking a hornet's nest, and the scene immediately became chaotic. These days, there were thousands of people who used their labor as contribution points to borrow the scriptures of the scripture pavilion. Naturally, they weren't willing to kneel here. Therefore, some people scolded Yin Chujio for spouting nonsense, while others questioned Master Wu Lang's words and felt that the incident in the pagoda forest had nothing to do with the scripture depository. When the crowd's argument weakened a little, Yin Chujio continued to say, even if the scripture depository had done something wrong, the ancestors of the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall wouldn't have such a big reaction, right? At worst, we could just collapse one of them. Why would they all fall to the side? I'm afraid there's another reason behind this. Master Wu Lang, what do you think? Master Wu Lang's pupils constricted slightly as he shouted sternly. Yin Qingqing, as an outsider, what right do you have to tell us what to do? Perhaps it's because of your arrival that caused the pagoda forest to mutate. Leave the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall immediately. We don't welcome you here. Wu Zhong immediately agreed. that's right. There are very few women in our 10,000 Buddhas sacred hall who have stayed for such a long time. Perhaps it was because of you that the consequences were so severe. Leave our 10,000 Buddhas sacred hall immediately. Immediately, many monks started shouting loudly, Yen Qingcheng, I don't welcome you here. Leave quickly. Yen Qingcheng, get out of the 10,000 Buddhas sacred hall. Yin Chujio didn't show any panic on her face and said indifferently, so be it. Originally, I wanted to tell you the reason why the pagoda forest is slanted. Since you don't welcome me, then I won't ask for trouble. Master Wu Zhao was like a drowning man who had grabbed the last straw and immediately stopped in front of Yin Chujio. Benefactor Yen, do you know the reason why the pagoda forest is slanted? Master Wu Lang reprimanded coldly, nonsense. Men, send the guest out. Immediately, Master Wu Lang's disciple Yinji brought a few other disciples forward, wanting to forcefully expel Yin Chujio. Wu Zhao saw Yin Chujio behind him and glared angrily at Master Wu Lang. Wu Lang, since Benefactor Yin knows the reason why the pagoda forest is slanted, why don't you let her say it? What are your intentions? Do you think that punishing me is more important than restoring the pagoda forest? Is this the magnanimity of a sect leader? If not for the tense atmosphere, He Xinjiu would have given a thumbs up to Master Wu Zhao. Even though old monk Wu Zhao was a little more honest, he was still able to handle critical moments. Wu Lu and Wu Yin saw that the situation had turned for the better, and their thoughts became active again. They immediately echoed, yes, sect leader, let almsgiver Yin say it. After all, restoring the pagoda forest is the most urgent matter. Chapter 60-57 Confrontation. The other disciples of the 10,000 Buddhas sacred hall were also discussing animatedly. Most of them were inclined to listen to what Yin Chujio had to say. Master Wu Lang had no choice but to snort coldly. All right, then I'd like to hear what you have to say. Yin Chujio clasped her hands behind her back and said slowly, last night I had a dream. An old monk who called himself Master Jufei said something to me. He told me that the reason why these stone pagodas were slanted was very simple. It was because someone had sneaked into the stone pagodas and done something bad. As Yin Chujio said this, she glanced at Master Wu Lang from the corner of her eyes. Although he hid it well, Yin Chujio still caught a flash of panic in his eyes. It seemed that she had made the right bet. Master Wu Lang must have some ulterior motives. Nonsense. The stone pagoda is heavily guarded. How could he let someone sneak in? Besides, every stone pagoda has a formation. Ordinary people have no way to enter. You even dragged your teacher into this. This is outrageous. Someone send the guest out. Master Wu Lang scolded angrily. Yin Chujio shrugged her shoulders. I'm just telling the truth. You don't have to be so angry out of humiliation. Oh right. Master Jufei said that the person who entered the stone tower without permission was you, Master Wu Lang. Master Wu Lang was immediately angered out of humiliation. He felt both hatred and fear in his heart. What he had done was very secretive. How did this wretched girl know about it? Could it really be that old fart who had given her a dream? This is simply nonsense. Men, immediately expel her. If it was not because he was afraid of Chu Feng and Zhuang Mu, Master Wu Lang really wanted to strangle Yin Chujio to death. However, if anything happened to her on the way back, it would have nothing to do with him. At this moment, Master Wu Lang's disciple Yinji suddenly kneeled on the ground and kowtowed. I was wrong. I was wrong. Grandmaster, please spare me. Everything was done by Master. It had nothing to do with me. He sneaked into the stone tower in the middle of the night. As for what he did, I don't know. Yinji said to Master Wu Lang. Master, just admit it. You came to the stone tower every night to steal things, which caused the stone tower to be tilted. You are unfilial. Master Wu Lang never dreamed that Yinji would suddenly appear to identify him. He was so angry that he slapped Yinji's head. Yinji didn't even dodge. He was hit directly and died. This time, the scene was completely chaotic. A discerning person could tell with one look that Wu Lang was trying to silence him. It seemed that what Yin Qingqing said was most likely true. Wu Lu and Wu Yin looked at each ot. How could they let it go? Thus, Wu Lu immediately shouted angrily, Wu Lang, why did you kill Yinji? It seems that what he said is true. Otherwise, you wouldn't have killed him to silence him. I didn't expect that you, as the sect master, would actually sneak into the stone tower to steal things. This is really an eye-opener. I know. There are relics of successive generations of eminent monks and spirit stones buried with them in the stone tower. You must have designs on them. Master Wu Lang's face was ashen. Yin Ji, this evil disciple, deceived his master and destroyed his ancestors. What's wrong with me killing him? As for what relics and spirit stones you said, it's even more nonsense. This matter ends here. Let's disperse. As for the reason why the stone tower is tilted, I will find out. Master Wu Zhao laughed coldly. End here? Wu Lang, I originally thought that other than being narrow-minded, you didn't do any evil deeds. Even if you suppress me on a daily basis, I can still tolerate it for the sake of the overall situation. However, I didn't expect that you would actually do such a heinous thing. If we don't get to the bottom of this matter today, no one will leave. Chapter 6058 turned out to be a king. Master Wu Lang's expression was savage. Men, Wu Zhao has offended his superior. Arrest him. If anyone still talks about this matter, we will punish him as an accomplice. Master Wu Lang had obviously broken all the rules and used violent methods to suppress him. Wu Lu and Wu Yin were a little hesitant. They didn't know if they should directly confront him head-on. At this moment, Master Wu Zhao burst into laughter, tears streaming down his face. He Xingjiu thought it's over. The old monk must have gone crazy from the shock. Just as she was about to speak, she saw Master Wu Zhao stop laughing. A jade slip appeared in his hand. After he activated it with Buddhist energy, the faint figure of an old monk appeared in the air. When Wu Lu and the others saw it, they blurted out, Uncle Master. Master Wu Zhao was the first to kneel on the ground. Wu Lu and the others also knelt on the ground. Master Wu Lang's expression changed a few times, and he also knelt down. The remaining disciples all knelt down. He Xingjiu naturally did not have to kneel. After all, she was of the same generation as Master Zhu Fei. Amitabha, if you see my figure, I reckon that the 10,000 Buddhist sacred hall has already caused a disaster. At that time, when I chose the successor of the sect leader, I was very conflicted. Although I felt that Wu Lang was narrow-minded, but considering that he was the eldest disciple, I still passed the position of sect leader to him. However, in order to prevent him from bringing the 10,000 Buddhist sacred hall into a land of eternal damnation due to his selfish desires, I specially left this law decree for Wu Zhao. I urged him to take out this law decree when he had no other choice and punish Wu Lang. It seems that my worries are not without reason. I can only blame myself for being indecisive and not being able to recognize people clearly. All the disciples, listen up. From now on, Wu Zhao will take over the position of sect master of the 10,000 Buddhist sacred hall. Amitabha, good, very good. As soon as he finished speaking, Master Zhu Fei's figure disappeared. Everyone was stunned by this unexpected turn of events. Even He Xingjia's eyes were wide open. Old monk Wu Zhao still had such a move? She originally thought that he was a bronze-level cultivator. But who would have thought that he was a king? However, old monk Wu Zhao was truly kind-hearted. He had never thought of replacing him even after being bullied. On the contrary, this Wu Lang was really courting death. Even if Yin Chujio hadn't added fuel to the fire, he would have framed Master Wu Zhao sooner or later. Fake. This is all fake. Impossible. I didn't even find th. How could it be in your hands? I am the sect leader. What right do you have to compete with me? This decree must have been forged by you. It must be fake. Master Wu Lang was in a state of madness. The reason why he frequently entered the stone pagoda was to find this decree in the first place. Back then, he had also accidentally learned that Master Zhifei had left behind a decree. The reason why he didn't attack Master Wu Zhao was because he was afraid of this decree and wanted to destroy it. However, he did not expect that the decree would be with Wu Zhao. After all, if it were him, he would have taken out the decree and replaced it. After thinking about it, He felt that the decree was hidden in the stone tower. That was why he would occasionally enter the stone tower to search for the decree. Later on, he did not find the decree. However, he found that the relics and spirit stones in the stone tower were very beneficial to cultivation, so he often went to the stone tower to cultivate. Originally, this matter was very secretive and nothing would happen. Who would have thought that these stone pagodas would suddenly tilt? He could only push the blame onto Master Wu Zhao, thinking that this was a good way to kill two birds with one stone. Who would have thought that he would lift a stone and smash his own foot? Not only did he fail to frame him, he even exposed what he had done. Chapter 60-59. The reason why the stone tower was tilted. Wu Lang's vicious gaze immediately fell on Yun Chujio. It was all this damn bitch's fault. If it weren't for her, none of these things would have happened. Even if he couldn't recover, he would have to drag her down with him. He Xinjiu was so smart. She had been paying attention to Wu Lang's actions. When she saw him looking at her, she immediately jumped behind Wu Zhao. Help! I'm going to kill someone. Wu Lang. He hadn't had the chance to make a move yet, alright? Master Wu Zhao immediately shouted coldly. Wu Lang, if you surrender now, I'll let you off lightly for the sake of our friendship as fellow disciples. If you persist in not coming to your senses, I can only help my master clean up the sect. Wu Lang looked at Master Wu Zhao with a ferocious expression. He wanted to say a few harsh words, but when he saw Wu Lu and Wu Yin by Master Wuzhou's side, as well as Wu Zhou and Wu Zhong who had surrendered, he knew that the situation was over. He gritted his teeth. There was no need to worry about having no firewood left. If he were to force it, he would definitely not be able to gain any advantage today. Therefore he let out a long sigh and said, Junior brother Wu Zhao, I was wrong. I will let you do whatever you want. He Xinjiu curled her lips. This Wu Lang was really shameless. He did not have any integrity at all, and was actually so cowardly. Master Wu Zhao immediately restrained Wu Lang's Buddhist power, and then brought Wu Lu and the others into the stone pagoda to check it out. He Xinjiu also wanted to sneak in to watch the show, but she was not a member of the 10,000 Buddhist temple, so she could only wait outside. After a while, Master Wu Zhao and the others walked out of one of the stone pagodas with unsightly expressions, and then entered the other stone pagodas to check it out. After Master Wu Zhao and the others finished checking all the stone pagodas, their faces turned ashen. Wu Lu pointed at Wu Lang's nose and cursed. Wu Lang, what are you doing? Wu Lang, you scum. It's one thing for you to monopolize the good resources, but you actually absorbed all the psyche power from the stone pagodas and the relics. The soil under the pagoda forest was soft. These stone pagodas relied on the psyche power stones to maintain the balance of the array formation. Now that you've absorbed all of them, it would be a miracle if the stone pagodas didn't tilt. You deserve to die. Even Wu Zhong and the others were furious. To think that they were in cahoots with him in the past. He had actually monopolized so many benefits, and not even a drop of soup was given to them. Wu Lang was so depressed that he almost spat out a mouthful of blood. He defended himself. Icily. Moreover, I purposely scattered it and absorbed it. I didn't absorb all of the spirit energy on it. You're slandering me. Master Wu Zhao sneered and directly escorted Wu Lang into one of the stone pagodas. The relics and psyche stone inside had already dimmed, and not a single trace of psyche power was left. Wu Lang widened his eyes and explained loudly. This is impossible. This has nothing to do with me. I didn't do it. It wasn't me. Master Wu Zhao and the others were naturally unwilling to believe that Wu Lang was the only one who entered the stone pagodas. Who else could it be if not him? Initially, Master Wu Zhao wanted to punish Wu Lang lightly. Now, even if he wanted to punish him lightly, Wu Zhong and the others would not agree. Hence, he immediately abolished Wu Lang's cultivation and locked him up in the ascetic cultivation cave of the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall. He would not be able to leave the cave for the rest of his life. Master Wu Zhao felt that the calamity of the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall could be resolved. Yun Chujio played a significant role and thanked him sincerely. He Xinjiu felt a little pain in her conscience that was almost gone. Even if she did not ask the Buddha's candle, she could guess that the psyche power on the spirit stones and relics had been absorbed by the Buddha's candle. Moreover, she did not have any good intentions to sow discord. She really deserved it. This fellow comforted himself. Although her motives were bad, and she had secretly taken some benefits, the result was still good. Otherwise, Wu Lang would have framed Master Wu Zhao sooner or later. She could be considered to have done a good deed. Yes, that was it. Chapter 6060 was a dream again. After experiencing such a huge change, the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall would naturally have to be busy for a while. He Xingjiu did not care about anything else. All she cared about was Yin Fengjin and Yilan. The truth would definitely not work. She had to think of a way to get the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall to release Yin Fengjin and Yilan. This matter was not easy. The monks of the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall could deal with other matters, but they were very stubborn about the demon race. Although Wu Lu had some resentment when he mentioned the matter of Yin Fengjin and Yilan being imprisoned, it was only directed at Wu Lang. From the beginning to the end, he did not feel that there was anything wrong with locking Yin Fengjin and Yilan up. Yin Chujiu thought about it and decided to use Master Zhu Fei's dream as a breakthrough point. Thus, this fellow came to see the newly appointed Sect Master Wu Zhao. Sect Master Wu Zhao, I had another dream last night. I actually dreamt of Master Zhu Fei again. Sect leader Wu Zhao believed in the dream because of the stone pagoda. He asked quickly, "What did Master say to you?" Yin Chujiu frowned. What he said was a bit strange. I didn't understand what he meant. He said that the family should be merciful and benevolent. They shouldn't accuse the good people. He also said that you have misunderstood Patriarch Dao Xian's intention. Sect Master Wu Zhao was stunned. What did his master mean? He immediately gathered Wu Lu and the others and studied the few sentences He Xingjiu had told him. Ancestral Master Dao Xian? The ancestral Master Dao Xian, who developed the Thousand-Aijin demon array? Wasn't his original intention to guard against the demons? How could he have misunderstood? Wu Yin said in puzzlement. The other people had similar thoughts as Wu Yin. They felt that their understanding was extremely correct. How could they have been wrong? Sect Master Wu Zhao looked at Yin Chujiu. Almsgiver Yin, what do you think of this? Yin Chujiu shook her head. I'm an outsider. I can't tell you anything. You can study it. I'd better not express my opinion. The more Wu Zhao said this, the more Sect Master Wu Zhao and the others wanted to hear from her. Therefore, after rejecting her several times, He Xingjiu finally said, "Yes. You all also know that I ascended from the great firmament continent. I heard that the Zen sect imprisoned 2 people. It said that they were imprisoned because they activated some array formation that was suspected to be the reincarnation of the demon race. However, there's one thing that you all have overlooked. Since they didn't awaken the memories of the demon race, how could they have the aura of the demon race? I think that either these 2 people were unlucky enough to be contaminated with the aura of the demon race for some other reason, or that something went wrong with your array formation. Back then, Ancestral Master Dao Xian probably created this array formation to prevent the demon race from making a comeback. But now that he has captured a good person by mistake, he naturally misunderstood his original intention. Well, I was just making a wild guess. If what I said is wrong, you can treat it as a joke." Sect Master Wu Zhao and the others looked at each other after hearing He Xingjiu's words. Wu Lu took the lead and said, "Since they have triggered the array formation, there's nothing wrong with imprisoning them just in case, right? It's precisely because of the benevolence of Buddha that we only imprisoned them and didn't directly take their lives. I don't think that we did anything wrong." The others also agreed with Wu Lu's opinion. For the sake of all the people in the world, it was not wrong to be more careful. He Xingjiu was so angry that she almost spat out a mouthful of blood. She had spent so much effort to stir up trouble for so many days. Could it be that all of it had been in vain? If the civilized method did not work, then she could only wait until she had the strength to solve the problem with violence in the future. Chapter 6061 The most miserable grass in the world. Although He Xingjiu was a little discouraged, she still decided to try harder. If she couldn't do it, there was nothing she could do. Therefore she said, "What you said makes sense, but it's not fair to the 2 of them and their families. Since Buddha helped all living things, there's no reason for them to suffer more than others. I have an alternative. Why don't we let them go, and let the people of the Zen sect monitor their whereabouts? Even if they are really the reincarnation of the demon race, they haven't awakened the memories of the demon race, so there won't be any bad consequences. Wu Lu frowned and asked suspiciously, Almsgiver Yin, why do I feel that you are especially concerned about them? Wu Zhao and the rest looked at Yin Chujio with suspicion. However, Yin Chujio did not look guilty at all. She said frankly, this matter has caused a stir in the Great Cloud continent. I feel that those two people are really pitiful. Since you all doubt my original intentions, then just pretend that I did not say anything. I will not say anything more about the matter regarding the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall in the future. Hearing Yin Chujio's words, Wu Lu and the others couldn't help but feel a little embarrassed. It seemed that they had thought too much. After all, Yen Qingqing wasn't related to those two people. They should just be discussing the matter. Sect Master Wu Zhao quickly said, Benefactor Yen, junior brother Wu Lu didn't have any other intentions. He just said it casually. As for your suggestion, since the matter is important, we still need to discuss it before we can discuss it. Yin Chujio also knew that this matter could not be rushed, so she did not continue the topic. Hei Xinjiu originally wanted to stay in the 10,000 Buddha sacred palace for a few days, but a message from President Gu made her pale with fright. She found an excuse to leave the 10,000 Buddha sacred palace in a hurry and returned to the 10 Directions Academy. As soon as she arrived at the upper house, Yin Chujio rushed to President Gu's courtyard. Where is my master? Who hurt them? President Gu, who had a worried look on his face, sighed and led Yin Chujio into the bedroom. When she saw the two old men lying on the bed, Yin Chujio's eyes immediately turned red. Who did this? Chu Feng and Zhuang Mu, who were originally in high spirits, had now become as skinny as sticks. If not for the slight undulation of their chests, she would have thought that they were two dried corpses. Yin Chujio was both shocked and angry. Chu Feng and Zhuang Mu's cultivation bases could be said to be top-notch in the divine enlightenment continent. Who had caused them to be in this state? The two grand elders must have used some kind of secret technique to escape. However, I have tried all my methods, but all I could do was to keep them alive. Therefore, I don't know what happened, President Gu said. Yin Chujio took a deep breath. Does anyone else know about the two grand elders' serious injuries? Other than the few chancellors and my trusted aides, no one else knows. Then continue to keep the news under wraps. You can go out first. I will talk to the two masters for a while. President Gu noticed that the little girl in front of him seemed to be different, but he could not tell what was different. He shook his head and sighed as he left the bedroom. Yin Chujio immediately forced Gowei Batsao to spit out 2 drops of liquid and fed it to Chu Feng and Zhuang Mu. The originally glossy leaves of Gowei Batsao instantly dimmed a lot. This fellow felt that he was the most miserable grass in the world. He always did good deeds to help others, but he was scolded 8 times in a day. He was really sullen. Chapter 60-62. The giant hand reappeared. Yin Chujio did not have the time to care about the self-pitying Gowei Batsao. Her eyes were fixed on the changes in Chu Feng and Zhuang Mu. It had to be said that although the Gowei Batsao was usually unreliable, its liquid had a miraculous effect. Chu Feng and Zhuang Mu's condition started to improve at a speed visible to the naked eye. Yin Chujio finally heaved a sigh of relief. Although she had the intention to make use of her master, once a master, always a father. In her heart, she truly regarded Chu Feng and Zhuang Mu as her masters. Naturally, she could not leave them to die. After a quarter of an hour, Chu Feng and Zhuang Mu opened their eyes one after another. Master, are you awake? Are you still feeling unwell? Are you thirsty? Are you hungry? Chu Feng shook his head strenuously, and the corners of his eyes were slightly moist. It was better to have a disciple. At least at this time, there were people who were asking about his well-being. Seeing that they were in a good condition, Yin Chujio asked, "How did you get injured to such a state? Who did it?" Chu Feng and Zhuang Mu told them the story intermittently. Although they were not on good terms with Qi Chun of the Divine Enlightenment Academy, They actually had a good relationship. They often agreed to look for some rare herbs or ores, and this time was no exception. The three of them agreed to go to the Ice Crystal Canyon of the Divine Enlightenment continent to look for ice crystals. Things were going smoothly initially, but at this point, Chu Feng and Zhuang Mu's eyes were filled with fear and shock. Seeing that they were too emotional, Yun Chujiu quickly fed the two of them some water. After the two of them calmed down, Zhuang Mu said, "When the three of us were mining for ice crystals, a giant hand appeared out of thin air and pressed the three of us to the ground. We could feel the spiritual power and vitality in our bodies dissipating rapidly. Even though we had tried everything we had learned in our lives, we were still unable to break free. Fortunately, at the critical moment, we remembered that each of us had an immortal-level teleportation jade talisman. After activating it, we were able to save our old lives." Yin Chujiu was shocked. A giant hand? Could it be the giant hand that tore through the void to save Su Yanran? This giant hand had appeared again? Many possibilities flashed through her mind. The owner of that giant hand was most likely the mysterious master of the Divine Devil Hall. What she could not figure out was, if he had such destructive power, why didn't he just kill Di Biming and her? After being silent for so long, why did he suddenly attack Chu Feng and the other two? After going through so many things, she was getting more and more confused about the true purpose of the Lord of the Divine Devil Hall. She did not know what he wanted to do. Although the Divine Devil Hall had been chasing after her and Di Biming, they always seemed to leave some leeway. It was like a cat catching a mouse. The little mouse thought that she had used her ability to escape from Ascension time and time again. But in fact, she had always been under the control of the cat. Of course, there was another possibility, that the master might have been under some kind of restriction, which was why his hands and feet were bound. Every time she and Di Biming escaped. Let's not talk about these for now. The key now was why he suddenly attacked Chu Feng and the other two? Yin Chujiu was puzzled. She wanted to reveal her true identity, but she was afraid that Chu Feng and Zhuang Mu's bodies, which had just recovered, could not take it. So she could only swallow the words that were about to come out of her mouth. "Master and master, rest assured and take care of your bodies. We will talk about other things when you have recovered." Yin Chujiu comforted them. Chu Feng laughed self-deprecatingly. "Recovered? Our lifetime of cultivation has already been reduced to nothingness. We are now useless people. We can't even defeat a little trash like you. Yin Chujiu, you will not have any disciples if you talk like this. Do you understand? I won't hide it from the two of you." Chu Feng almost vomited blood when he heard his words. "You're the one who's going to die." However, he wanted to hear what he had to say. He forcefully suppressed the anger in his heart and gritted his teeth as he asked, "What's the matter?" President Gu did not sense anything out of the ordinary and continued to say, "Actually, Marshal Uncle Yen has many suspicious points. Although we old men were tricked by her at that time, after thinking about it, we realized that there are a lot of things that are fishy about this matter. She most likely caused such a ruckus because of the position of vice president. Of course, this is also something that we can't figure out no matter how much we think about it. Even if it's for the vice president, she has gone too far. Isn't she afraid of being struck by lightning? However, we thought about it again. She was both of your disciples. Even if there was something wrong with her, it shouldn't be a big deal. We might as well play along with her. Perhaps we might be able to see some flaws. However, who would have thought that she would go to the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall and change the sect master of the other party? It's not that I have bad words, but this disciple of both of you is really too much of a demon. It's okay for you two to keep her in check, but once you two are dead, what should we do with her?" Chapter 6064 had been exposed a long time ago. Chu Feng was so angry that he almost passed out when he saw President Gu calling him a funeral. Zhuang Mu's expression did not look too good either. No matter who was cursed to death, he would not be in a good mood. However, his personality was gentler than Chu Feng's. He said calmly, "You're thinking too much. We know about our bodies. There's no longer any threat to our lives. President Gu, it's over. It's over. He seemed to have dug a 10,000-year-old deep hole for himself. Putting everything else aside, if that troublemaker knew that he had said those words just now, he would definitely not stop. Seniors, I was wrong. I was blind. I spouted nonsense. Chu Feng wanted to curse President Gu for a while, but when he saw that his haggard face had softened, he said snappily, "Okay, you didn't do it on purpose. Let's put aside the lightning strike. What does the change of the leader of the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall have to do with the little girl?" Master Wu Zhao came to the 10 Directions Academy to study the misty cloud pink lotus. I don't know how Uncle Master Yin did it. In short, he made a lotus in the lotus pond. Master Wu Zhao believed her story, but we didn't. But we were curious to know what she was going to do, so we played along with her. Then she followed Master Wu Zhao to the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall. According to the guards who followed her there, she did a lot of jumping around the 10,000 Buddha's temple. Somehow, she instigated the 10,000 Buddha's temple to rise up. In the end, Master Wu Zhao was the leader. In order to prove He Xingjia's instigation ability, President Gu told the information that he had gathered from Director Zhao and the others. Later, we became suspicious and summarized everything. Only then did we know that she was trying to sow discord behind our backs. It's a pity that we old men were fooled by her. If she hadn't been so anxious to become the vice president, we might have been kept in the dark. At that time, when President Gu and the other elders found out the truth, they were angry, resentful, embarrassed, and angry. If He Xingjiu did not have 2 big backers, the old men would have beaten her up. Later, President Gu comforted Director Zhao and the other elders and decided to let He Xingjiu reveal her fox-like tail. He wanted to see what she was up to. Moreover, even if she had some ulterior motive, there were still the 2 grand elders. It was not their place to teach her a lesson. Chu Feng and Zhuang Mu were in disbelief. How could their innocent and kind little disciple be the scheming schemer that little Gu spoke of? However, little Gu spoke with certainty. He did not have the guts to lie to them. Could it be that they had made a mistake? The 2 of them were a little tired at first, but now they were anxious to know the truth. They immediately asked President Gu to call He Xingjiu back. He Xingjiu did not know that the matter had been exposed. As soon as she entered the bedroom, she disapproved. "Master, your bodies have just recovered. Why don't you have a good rest? It's not too late to talk about it later. President, you two, why didn't you stop us?" President Gu looked at Yin Chujio with a complicated expression and didn't say anything. His mood and expression were also complicated. On one hand, he was gloating. This little girl played them like a fiddle and deserved to be punished by the 2 grand elders. On the other hand, he was also a little worried. This little girl was the most vengeful. Even if the 2 grand elders punished her, they wouldn't really do anything to her. They would definitely take revenge on him in the future. Yin Chujio saw President Gu's complicated expression, and her heart skipped a beat. She instantly thought of many possibilities, and this guy immediately knelt on the ground. "Master, I was wrong. I'm not a human. Sob, sob, I'm sorry for your trust and cultivation. I'm the snake that bit the farmer. I'm the ingrate that harmed people." Chapter 60-65. Pigs Trotters. President Gu was dumbfounded by He Xingjia's kneeling. Could this little girl even calculate? How did she know that she had complained? Or was it just a coincidence? Chu Feng and Zhuang Mu were also stunned. Chu Feng snorted coldly and said, "What happened?" He Xingjia's tears fell one by one. "Master, I'm a big liar. I lied to you. SOB. I wanted to tell you everything just now, but I swallowed my words when I saw that you were not in good health. However, when I saw your loving eyes, I felt my conscience hurt like a needle. So, I decided to confess on my own initiative, so that you wouldn't be angry if some ignorant pig told on you." A certain pig. Chu Feng looked at He Xingjiu, who was crying pitifully, and could not help but feel a little soft-hearted. His tone also softened a little. "What lies did you tell?" "Master, I was originally too good-looking. I was afraid of being coveted, so I changed my appearance." Chu Feng and Zhuang Mu nodded. They felt that this was not a big deal. It was reasonable for a girl to change her appearance for safety reasons. Master, because I changed my appearance, I changed my name. Chu Feng and Zhuang Mu nodded their heads again. They felt that this was normal. If they did not change their names, wouldn't it be a waste to change their appearance? Master, because I changed my name, I changed my spiritual root too. Chu Feng and Zhuang Mu frowned. They could change their spiritual roots as they wished. However, on second thought, they did have a cultivation method to fake their spiritual roots. However, the attack power of the fake spiritual roots was very weak. Thus, the two of them nodded again, and did not say anything. Master, because the three things I said above are all fake. The things I did on this basis may seem like a scam in the eyes of some big pig trotters. But in reality, I was also forced into a corner. If I told one lie, I would have to use 10 lies to cover it up. If I told 3 lies, I would have to use 30 lies to cover it up. Woo-woo. I am tormented by self-blame and guilt every day. I wanted to confess to both of you and ask for forgiveness, but both of you went on a long journey. I had no choice but to follow Master Wu Zhao to the 10,000 Buddha Sacred Hall, to repent in front of Buddha. Woo-woo, Master. I am in a state of deep self-blame every day. I can't eat well, and I can't sleep well. Both of you treated me so well, yet I shamelessly lied to both of you. I am not a human, I am just a bastard, woo-woo. Big Pig's Trotter Gu. No, President Gu was completely shocked by He Xinjia's shamelessness. So humans can be so shameless? I've learned a lot today. With her words, the major issues were reduced to minor ones. Those who didn't know would think that s. Sure enough, Chu Feng and Zhuang Mu saw that Yin Chujio was crying so hard that they couldn't even breathe. Moreover, it wasn't a big deal. After all, wasn't she just hiding her identity? It wasn't a big deal. Alright, stop crying. It's not a big deal. Get up and talk, Chu Feng said. Yin Chujio shook her head. Master, I've made a big mistake. Even if you don't pursue it, I won't be able to live with my conscience. Please let me kneel. Seeing this, Chu Feng and Zhuang Mu's anger dissipated a little. Putting everything else aside, their precious disciple's attitude of admitting her mistake was very good. It seemed that she was forced into a corner. Otherwise, she wouldn't blame herself so much. Zhuang Mu recalled what President Gu had said before and asked, "How did you escape from the heavenly lightning? Not to mention that you lured the heavenly lightning to the seal of Tao Tai. This place is at least 100 li away from the Six Harmonies waterside pavilion. You won't be able to reach there in a short time." Chapter 60-66. I have the heavenly thunder spirit root. Yin Chujio did not immediately reply to Zhuang Mu's words. Instead, she gave President Gu a meaningful glance and said, "Martial nephew Gu, feed the two masters a pill that can calm their minds. I'm afraid that the two masters' emotions will be too fluctuating, and it will be bad for their health. Sigh, with the current condition of the two masters, I really shouldn't tell them everything at this time. However, there are some big pigs who like to complain." President Gu was both guilty and puzzled. How did she know that she had complained? Could she really know how to calculate? Yin Chujio saw that Chu Feng and Zhuang Mu had taken the pills, so she said, "Masters, don't be too excited later. If anything happens, I can only die to apologize." Chu Feng said with some amusement, "I don't know how many storms and waves we have gone through, just say it." Yin Chujio took a deep breath and said, "I have a heavenly lightning spiritual root." Chu Feng, Zhuang Mu, President Gu. After a moment of silence, President Gu widened his eyes. You have a heavenly lightning spiritual root? Then the heavenly lightning that day was to strike you? Yin Chujio. Maybe 80% probably. President Gu was so angry that he almost spat out a mouthful of blood. Although they had guessed that there was something fishy going on, they felt that at least He Xinjia was sincere in wanting to save them. But in the end, they were implicated by her? Did they count as being sold and helping others count their money? If it weren't for Chu Feng and Zhuang Mu, President Gu really wanted to scold He Xinjia and call for Director Zhao and the others to beat her up. Although Chu Feng and Zhuang Mu were not as excited as President Gu, they were still very shocked. Zhuang Mu frowned. Heavenly lightning spiritual root? Even a heavenly lightning spiritual root can't withstand such fierce heavenly lightning, can it? Besides, the heavenly lightning spiritual root is not tolerated by the Tian Dao. How did you survive until now? Yin Chuzhou blinked her eyes. The two masters might not believe me, but I am more resistant to lightning. The heavenly lightning of that intensity last time could not kill me in 6 to 6 hours. At most, it would make me bald. Chu Feng and the other two were dumbfounded. On one hand, they were shocked, and on the other hand, they did not believe it. How was this possible? How could there be a person in the world who was not afraid of lightning? This was in line with their current knowledge. Yin Chuzhou saw that Chu Feng and Zhuang Mu were still in a good condition, so. President Gu subconsciously retorted. You were struck by lightning last time, but your cultivation didn't change. Yin Chuzhou had no choice but to adjust her cultivation to the real fourth layer of the divine summoning. She touched her nose and said, Well, I was afraid of scaring you, so I hid some of my cultivation. President Gu felt that his brain was not enough. What kind of monster was this? Not only would he not be struck to death by the heavenly lightning, he could even absorb the heavenly lightning to achieve a breakthrough? Was he still human? Even the experienced and knowledgeable Chu Feng and Zhuang Mu were dumbstruck. He could still do this. After a long while, Chu Feng and Zhuang Mu finally digested this fact. Initially, the two of them were a little worried when they heard that Yin Chuzhou had a heavenly lightning spirit root. After all, the heavenly lightning spirit root was not tolerated by the Tian Dao and would be killed sooner or later. However, this little pervert in front of them did not have this problem. No wonder her talent in alchemy and talisman making was so shocking. It turned out that it was because of the heavenly thunder spirit root. This made sense. Chapter 60-67. Study hard and improve every day. President Gu frowned. He suddenly remembered something. His eyes widened and he blurted out. You can't be that Yin Chuzhou who was hunted down by the divine devil hall, right? Yin Chuzhou laughed dryly. Am I so famous now? President Gus' nose almost went crooked from anger. He had previously said that he was afraid that his looks would be coveted by others. Bah! So he was afraid of being chased by the divine devil hall. They were using the 10-directional academy as a shield. Too despicable. Chu Feng and Zhuang Mu did not know about this. They looked at President Gu with confusion. President Gu could only explain. The divine devil hall chased after two people in the Chongshao continent. One is called Di Baiming, and the other is Yin Chuzhou. I think she entered our 10-directional academy to avoid being chased. Yin Chuzhou said weakly. It's not all to avoid being pursued. The main reason is to study hard and improve every day. President Gu glared at her fiercely. He felt that he and the 10-directional academy were like idiots. They were toyed with by a little girl. If this news were to spread, it would make people laugh their heads off. Junior nephew Gu, you don't have to be so angry. Although my motives are a little impure, it also means that our 10-directional academy's reputation is well known. Otherwise, the Alliance of 10,000 Cities, the Ironblood Massacre Alliance, and the Divine Enlightenment Academy all had the intention to recruit me. I wouldn't have chosen the 10-directional academy alone. President Gu snorted snappily, thinking to himself, then I should thank you for looking up to me? Oh right. It was said that those people had fallen in love with her, because this fellow had helped them to resist the lightning strike. It turned out that they were all fucking fake. This liar. He Xinjiu ignored the angry President Gu, and looked at Chu Feng and Zhuang Mu. Seeing their gloomy faces, she said frankly, Master, I know that I was shameless, but I flew to the Divine Enlightenment continent alone, and couldn't avoid the pursuit of the Divine Demon Palace. I could only take advantage of the situation. I was forced to do so. But from the moment I stepped into the 10 Directions Academy, I told myself that I would never do anything to let the 10 Directions Academy down. Today, the 10 Directions Academy will shelter me from the wind and rain. In the future, I will protect the 10 Directions Academy forever, even if I have to sacrifice my life. President Gu curled his lips in his heart. Bah! You are really boastful. You are a weak chicken, yet you want to protect the 10 Directions Academy forever. Boasting without money, right? Chu Feng and Zhuang Mu were very impressed by He Xinjiu. Their disciple was naturally not ordinary. Even if he was very weak now, he would definitely soar to the 9 heavens in the future. Naturally, he had to shoulder the heavy responsibility of protecting the 10 Directions Academy. Seeing that Yin Chujio was so ambitious and responsible, the anger in their hearts lessened a little. Moreover, they were not on good terms with the Divine Devil Hall to begin with, so they would not miss this opportunity. Zhuangmu sighed. Other than that, what else are you hiding from us? If you tell us the truth, we will let bygones be bygones. If you continue to hide it, once we find out. Although Zhuangmu did not say the rest of his words, Yin Chujio knew what he meant. If they were found out, there was a high chance that they would be wiped out. This fellow thought to himself, I can't tell you all my secrets even if I tell you for a day and a night. Which one should I tell? Just as this fellow was hesitating, De Hua's voice sounded in his spiritual sense. Quick, take this opportunity to get the 2 old geezers to return my body to me. De Hua had a good plan in his mind. This damned girl was so weak. He did not know how long it would take for her to materialize. He might as well return to his own body. He might even find a chance to take revenge. Chapter 60-68. Her spiritual beast He Xinjiu knew exactly what De Hua was thinking. She sneered in her heart. Playing tricks with her. She was looking for a beating. However, De Hua's words reminded He Xinjiu that the matter of Tao Tai was definitely a huge matter for the Academy of 10 Directions. If she kept it a secret, once she was found out, she would definitely be hunted down by the whole continent. She might as well confess. Therefore, this guy glanced at President Gu, as if he didn't know whether he should say it or not. Chu Feng snapped, just say it. If little Gu dares to talk nonsense outside, I'll teach him a lesson. President Gu. Who was the one who made the mistake? Why did it feel like he was the one who made the mistake? Did he have to be so biased? Master, what I'm about to say might be a little scary, so you have to be mentally prepared. Why don't you take another pill? He Xinjiu asked tentatively. Chu Feng glared at her. Why are you talking so much nonsense? Hurry up and say it. He Xinjiu felt that it was better to be prepared for the worst. Therefore, she asked President Gu to take out a bottle of pills and prepare them. If the 2 old men couldn't handle it, she would save them immediately. After the arrangements were made, He Xinjiu said, Masters, you haven't seen my spiritual beast, have you? I'll release it for you to see. President Gu said unhappily, Isn't your spiritual beast just a red claw? Is this a secret? He Xinjiu ignored him and released De Hua. President Gu's eyes immediately widened. Isn't it a red claw? How did it become a piglet? Chu Feng and Zhuangmu's faces were also stiff. Their little disciple's spiritual beast was actually a piglet? Wasn't this too weak? If they were to fight, wouldn't they just be sitting there waiting to be tortured? Yin Chujio did not explain. Instead, she took out a large basin of steamed buns and placed them on the ground. She originally wanted to take out the corpse of a demonic beast, but firstly, there was no room for it in the house. Secondly, she was afraid of dirtying the ground, so she took out a large basin of steamed buns. Then, Chu Feng and the other 2 were dumbstruck to see that the red piglet's body had actually solidified. In just a few mouthfuls, it swallowed the entire basin of steamed buns into its stomach. Yin Chujio threw a few bags of rice noodles to De Hua, and all of them were swallowed into De Hua's stomach. De Hua wasn't full. Just as he was about to speak, Yin Chujio slapped him and dispersed him. What a joke. It would be bad if this idiot said something that he shouldn't have. Chu Feng and Zhuangmu were extremely shocked. If it weren't for the fact that their physical condition didn't allow it, the 2 of them would have jumped up a long time ago. President Gu suddenly thought of the few courtyards that had disappeared. Then he thought of a possibility and almost fell to the ground. This is Tao Tai? No, impossible. How could Tao Tai become your spiritual beast? Besides, isn't Tao Tai locked at the bottom of the lake? How is this possible? Chu Feng and Zhuangmu were so emotional that their bodies were trembling. He Xinjiu quickly stood up and fed the pills to the 2 of them. Chu Feng regained his breath and roared angrily. Evil disciple, tell me, what is going on? How did Tao Tai become your spiritual beast? He Xinjiu quickly kneeled on the ground and said in a wrong tone. During the trial in the Six Harmonies Waterside Pavilion, I entered the Red Valley to save Ding Wenru. In the end, I signed a contract with it, and it became my spiritual beast. Master, why don't you think of a way to get it to break the contract with me? I don't want such a useless spiritual beast. It doesn't have any ability, and only knows how to eat and eat. It makes me poor. Could chapter 6069 be referring to her? Chu Feng and Zhuang Mu were fuming with anger. What did she mean by taking advantage of others and pretending to be good? This was it. Tao Tai was an ancient ferocious beast. Even if it was only a spiritual beast now, it could still crush other spiritual beasts. How could she ask them to help break the contract? Not to mention anything else. Even if they wanted to break the contract, they had to have a way. Tell me in detail, how did you sign the contract with it? Zhuang Mu said with a frown. Yin Chujio naturally would not mention the matter of her previous life. She picked and picked to tell the story. She only said that her original spiritual beast was a split soul of Tao Tai, which was why Tao Tai chose to sign the contract with her. As for why her original spiritual beast was a split soul of Tao Tai, she did not know anything about it. Chu Feng and Zhuang Mu did not speak for a long time. He Xinjia's heart was in a mess. However, she knew that Tao Tai's matter was too big, so it was better to speak less. Therefore this fellow knelt obediently. Later on, he released De Hua again to force it to kneel. De Hua was so angry. It was one thing for an ancient fierce beast to be bullied by this little girl, but now it had to kneel to two old men. How outrageous. However, when it thought of what Yin Chujio said, it could only kneel down beside He Xinjiu for its body. Chu Feng and Zhuang Mu were so shocked that they almost passed out. They never dreamed that an ancient ferocious beast like Tao Tai would kneel down to them. For a moment, their minds were blank, and they did not know what to say. De Hua rolled its eyes. These two old men were indirectly its enemies. Now that they were seriously injured, it was better to just eat them. Of course, it was only thinking about it. After all, He Xinjiu was beside it. It did not dare to. However, Chu Feng and Zhuang Mu still felt the malice from De Hua. They could not help but shiver and said hurriedly, "You first, take it back first." Yin Chujio patted De Hua away smoothly. De Hua was so angry. It was a magnificent beast. Did it come and go as it was summoned? Forget it. For its body it had to endure. After a while Chu Feng sighed. It's the will of heaven. It's the will of heaven. On the 15th of the month, 10,000 beasts will roar, and Tao Tai will appear. Disaster will come, and all things will be destroyed. The world will be in chaos. Zhuang Mu also sighed. The will of heaven cannot be disobeyed. We cannot stop it. What should come will come. Not to mention the giant hand, it has the power to destroy the world. The divine enlightenment continent is going to be doomed. He Xinjiu was confused. However, when the giant hand was mentioned, the guy had the opportunity to interrupt. He quickly said, "Masters, I've seen that giant hand twice before. It's most likely the hand of the master of the Divine Devil Hall." Yin Chujio immediately told them about the giant hand. Then she said, "I just don't know why he suddenly attacked you. Could it be that the Divine Devil Hall is going to make a big move? Maybe the calamity you mentioned before was brought by the Divine Devil Hall." Chu Feng and Zhuang Mu were both shocked. The giant hand was actually the hand of the Divine Devil Hall Master? Then didn't he have the cultivation of a god? At this moment President Gu asked, "Seniors, since the calamity is coming, is there any way to break it?" Zhuang Mu did not hide anything and slowly said the last 4 sentences. The ethereal soul, the path of escape, 2 cycles of reincarnation, and the disaster is unbreakable. However, we have studied it for many years, but we still haven't figured out the meaning of the last 4 sentences. He Xinjia's heart skipped a beat. Oh my, was the ethereal soul talking about her? Wasn't she just 2 cycles of reincarnation? But what did the path of escape mean? Chapter 6070 was really shameless even though He Xinjia's heart was in turmoil. She didn't show it on her face. Transmigrating was too unbelievable. She only told Di Biming. In the end, the only person she trusted wholeheartedly was Di Biming. Thinking of Di Biming, He Xinjiu touched her nose guiltily. It was likely that Beiyu was debeiming, and this matter would be exposed sooner or later. However, it was better not to say anything now. Otherwise, the two old men would be even angrier. After a few days, the anger of the two old men would subside. After all, Chu Feng and Zhuang Mu were seriously injured. Even though they had consumed the juice of guaichao, they were still in low spirits after such a long time. The two of them looked at each other, and Zhuang Mu said to Yun Chujio, "No matter what reason you have, you cannot change the fact that you lied to us. These few days you can reflect on yourself in the wilderness branch. When we are better, we will deal with you." President Gu cursed in his heart. These two girls really doted on this black-hearted girl. They had made such a big mistake, yet they only punished her to reflect on herself. As for what they said about being punished in the future, they would definitely not let it go. They were too narrow-minded. Hei Xinjiu pursed her lips and said aggrievedly, "Master, I have committed a grave sin. I deserve whatever punishment you give me. But can you not punish me to reflect on myself?" Zhuang Mu said unhappily, "Why?" Hei Xinjiu said with tears in her eyes, "Because I want to visit you every day. Otherwise, I won't be able to rest at ease. How about this, master? You can punish me with 1,000 boards. Even if my skin is torn open, I'm willing to do it as long as you let me take care of you." President Gu cursed in his heart. What a bootlicker! 1,000 slaps? He probably wouldn't even hit a single one. This wall reflection was most likely going to be cancelled. As expected, Chu Feng and Zhuang Mu saw how filial their little disciple was, and they would rather be slapped than come over to take care of them. Their hearts immediately softened, and they said, "Then remember this wall reflection first. You can make it up later." President Gu secretly curled his lips. Make it up. Make up my ass. In a few days, he would definitely be coaxed by this troublemaker again. He was also convinced. This troublemaker had told such a big lie, and he had taken in Tao Tai as a spiritual beast. In the end, he only kneeled for a while and was fine. What the hell? He thought carefully, and realized that this troublemaker was really smart. He first told some minor lies, then squeezed them out bit by bit. Finally, he moved the two of them with his filial piety. How shameless! While he was thinking about it, Hei Xinjiu had already helped Chu Feng and Zhuang Mu to cover them with the quilt. She also asked about their well-being. Seeing that the two of them had closed their eyes, she signaled President Gu with her eyes. President Gu was frustrated. He had taken care of them for several days without any sleep. In the end, all the credit was given to the troublemaker. The two of them left the bedroom. Hei Xinjiu looked at President Gu meaningfully. "Junior nephew Gu, if you have any dissatisfaction with me in the future, just say it. Don't do something like complaining about me. After all, if you do too many things like this, your conscience will hurt." President Gu. Before he could react, Hei Xinjiu swaggered away with her hands behind her back. President Gu couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief. He had thought that this troublemaker would not forgive him, but he didn't expect that he would just casually say such a thing. Wait, it seems that he was the victim, right? Chapter 60-71 The Bai family's turmoil in the bedroom. Chu Feng and Zhuang Mu were not really asleep. Chu Feng said suspiciously, "The little girl must have fed us something extraordinary. Otherwise, we wouldn't have recovered so quickly." Yes, at that time, our spiritual power and cultivation were completely absorbed, and we barely activated the immortal level teleportation jade talisman. Even if we could wake up, our condition wouldn't have been so good. Forget it, everyone has secrets. If she doesn't want to tell us, then so be it. After all, she's very filial to us. Let's just turn a blind eye, Zhuang Mu said. I think so too. It's just that old brat Qi Chen probably doesn't have such good luck like us. I don't know if he can survive this. A great disaster is about to arrive, and now we've become trash. I'm afraid that even if we have strength, we won't be able to use it. Chu Feng sighed. Zhuang Mu consoled. Since that giant hand hasn't appeared again, it probably has some misgivings. We still have time to deal with it. No matter what, it's more important to take care of our health first. On the other side, Hei Xinjiu hopped back to the primeval institution. In her spiritual sense, Dehua shouted angrily. Why didn't you ask them for my body? You lied to me. Are you stupid? Can't you see that my master and the others are still angry? Do you think they will agree with me? Yin Chujio said angrily. Dehua didn't listen to Yin Chujio's explanation at all and roared angrily. I don't care. Go back and take my body right now. Or I will kill you. Yin Chujio sneered. As you wish. But let me remind you, you have to bear the consequences. Dehua gritted her teeth, but she didn't dare to do anything. She tried to convince herself that it wasn't too late for Tao Tai to take revenge. Let's wait and see. Yin Chujio chatted with Ding Wenru for a while. Then she lay on the bed and pondered about the giant hand. It was definitely not a coincidence that the giant hand attacked Chu Feng and the other two. It was most likely aimed at the three of them. Chu Feng and the other two could be said to be the top existences in the Divine Enlightenment continent. If they were eliminated, the Divine Devil Hall would have 3 less obstacles. However, it wasn't that the giant hand hadn't had the chance to eliminate them before. Why did it suddenly attack this time? Was it because the Divine Devil Hall wanted to make a move, or was it because of other reasons? Yin Chujio's head was hurting from thinking, but she couldn't think of anything. Fortunately, this guy had a big heart. If she really couldn't think of anything, she wouldn't think about it anymore. After all, the Divine Devil Hall's foxtail would be exposed sooner or later. In the next few days, Yin Chujio went to Chu Feng and Zhuang Mu's place every day to take care of the two of them. She would tell them some jokes to make them happy. Chu Feng and Zhuang Mu were also people who had been through a lot. Although their cultivation was destroyed, they didn't sink down because of it. Half a month later, the two of them fully recovered and began to cultivate again. They had the foundation from before, and they still had a lot of good things on them. Although they couldn't recover their original cultivation in a short time, at least they had hope of recovering. At this moment, something happened in the Divine Enlightenment continent. The head of the Bai family passed the position of the head of the family to Lan Luochen because he was unwell and retired. When the news came, everyone was in an uproar. The Bai family had many direct descendants, and they were all very outstanding. For example, Bai Yuechen of the Academy of 10 Directions was one of the outstanding ones. There was no reason for him to pass the position of the head of the Bai family to an outsider like Lan Luochen. Moreover, the head of the Bai family was very healthy. Even if he had chosen the successor, there was no reason for him to immediately retire and give up his position. Could something have happened to the Bai family? Patriarch Zhang number 6072 arrived. Outsiders were so surprised, not to mention Bai Yuechen, a member of the Bai family. He had been studying in the 10 Directions Academy and had not heard any news before. After hearing the rumors, he immediately sent a message to his father, Bai Huanwu. Father, why did grandfather pass the position of patriarch to that bastard, Lan Luochen? What is going on? Bai Huanwu quickly replied, Yuechen, you can focus on studying in the academy. You don't have to worry about other things. Don't come back for the time being. Remember this. Bai Yuechen was confused. Unfortunately, Bai Huanwu said the same thing when he sent the message. The more Bai Yuechen thought about it, the more he felt that something was wrong. Therefore, he asked for leave from the academy. Although the academy was strict, it was still allowed if there was a reasonable reason. It was understandable that Bai Yuechen wanted to go back and take a look after such a big incident had happened in the Bai family, so he allowed leave. Bai Yuechen hurried back to the Bai family. The Bai family did not seem to be any different from before. When the servants saw Bai Yuechen, they bowed and greeted him respectfully as usual. However, when Bai Yuechen saw Bai Huanwu, he was stunned. Bai Huanwu, who was originally in his prime, had a head full of white hair, and his body was hunched like an old man. His eyes were deeply sunken, and his face was ashen. Father, what happened to you? How did you become like this? Bai Huanwu didn't reply to Bai Yuechen's words and scolded angrily. Didn't I tell you not to come back? Why didn't you listen to me? You're going to anger me to death. Dad, you can hit me or scold me if you want. Tell me first, how did you become like this? Before Bai Huanwu could answer, a servant knocked on the door hurriedly. Master, the master summoned the young master over. Bai Wanwu's body immediately trembled. Got it, I'll send Yuechen over right away. Bai Yuechen snorted coldly. Does he really think he's the master? I'd like to see why this wild bastard wants to see me. Slap. Bai Huanwu slapped Bai Yuechen's face. Bai Yuechen was stunned by the slap. Father, why did you hit me? You unscrupulous beast. Why did you come back when I didn't tell you to come back? Now you're talking nonsense. You're courting death. Listen to me. Go back to the 10 Directions Academy right now, and don't go back to the Bai family in the future. Bai Huanwu said in a low voice. What is the reason? Father, I won't leave until you tell me clearly. Did that wild bastard do something that caused our family to become like this? Bai Huanwu was anxious and angry. He could only say, Fine, I'll tell you the truth. Lan Luochen had some fortuitous encounter, and his cultivation suddenly s. Even your grandfather was no match for him, and was forced to give up the position of the head of the family. Your uncles and I were naturally unconvinced. We argued with him, but we didn't know that he could defeat us so easily. Moreover, I don't know what sorcery he used to convert our cultivation for his own use. Our cultivation became even more unfathomable. Yuechen, listen to your father. Go back to the 10 Directions Academy immediately. At least your life will be safe. The Bai family will never come back in the future. Bai Yuechen was both shocked and angry. What kind of evil cultivation technique did Lan Luochen practice to be able to absorb the cultivation of others? Just as he was about to speak, a servant's respectful voice came from outside the door. The master has arrived. Bai Wanwu's legs went weak, and he collapsed on the ground, his face full of fear. Chapter 60-73. You forced her to her death. Although Bai Yuechen was also a little scared, he had only heard about it, and was not as scared as Bai Huanwu. The door was opened by the servants, and Lan Luochen walked in from outside. Bai Yuechen's face immediately turned pale. Although there was no change in Lan Luochen's appearance, and he was still as handsome as before, his originally gloomy eyes were now bloodthirsty. Even the invisible pressure on his body was enough to make Bai Yuechen's heart tremble, and his legs tremble. Lan Luochen walked to the main seat and sat down. His voice was emotionless as he said, First uncle, cousin Yuechen has just returned. Why are you chasing him away? It's been a long time since we brothers met. It's not too late to catch up and leave. Bai Wanwu's face turned even paler. He knelt down and crawled a few steps. Master, Yuechen doesn't know anything. Please let him go. Although Bai Yuechen was afraid, he clearly did not realize the situation before him. He went forward to support Bai Huanwu and snorted. Father, don't beg him. I don't believe that he would really dare to do anything to me. I am the legitimate descendant of the Bai family. Before Bai Huanwu could speak, Bai Yuechen's body involuntarily flew towards Lan Luochen, who was sitting on the ground. His body knelt on the ground, but Lan Luochen grabbed his neck. In the name of justice, I am the head of the family now. If the Bai residence is changed to the Lan residence, who is in the name of justice? Bai Yuechen could not breathe. His eyes were bulging. Bai Huanwu knelt in front of Lan Luochen. Please spare my life, head of the family. You are blood-related cousins, please spare him this time. Lan Luochen's lips curled into a sneer. Blood-related cousins. This good cousin of mine has humiliated me countless times. He has tried to kill me several times. If it weren't for my good fortune, I'm afraid I wouldn't be alive today. Family head, he was blinded by lard. I will teach him a good lesson. I only have one son. For the sake of your mother, please spare him. I beg you. Bai Huanwu kowtowed as he spoke, his face full of fear and despair. The coldness on Lan Luochen's face became even colder. For the sake of my mother? Do you have the right to mention my mother? Just because she fell in love with people from the lower continent, you forced her to die. You are all murderers. No, it's not like that. She died because she had difficulty giving birth to you and bled heavily. It has nothing to do with us. Bai Huanwu defended himself. If it weren't for you guys chasing after her and my father, would her body have suffered severe damage? If it weren't for you guys pressing on her step by step, would she have been injured by the demon beasts? If it wasn't because she was injured by the demon beasts and her body suffered severe damage, how could she have died during childbirth? We didn't want your mother's life back then. We just wanted to separate them. We didn't want anything to happen to her. Even if we let your mother down, if it weren't for your grandfather's help, how could you have ascended so quickly? Break the bones and connect the tendons. For the sake of blood ties, spare Yu Chun. I beg you. Bai Huanwu pleaded. If it wasn't for this small favor, do you think you would still be alive? Lan Luochen snorted coldly and released his grip on Bai Yuchen's neck. Bai Yuechen collapsed on the ground and coughed desperately. It took him a long time to recover. Bai Yuechen was both hateful and afraid, but after what had just happened, he did not only provoke him. Lan Luochen glanced at him and said indifferently, "In 2 days, you will return to the 10 Directions Academy and do as I ask. Otherwise, there will not be a single member of the Bai family in the Bai residence in the future." Chapter 60-74. A total of 3,000 continents. Although Bai Yuechen was indignant in his heart, he did not dare to resist now. He could only nod and agree. After Lan Luochen finished giving his orders, he stood up and left. He returned to his own courtyard. This was an extremely spacious courtyard. It originally belonged to the Bai family head, but now it belonged to him. There was not a single servant in the courtyard. No one was allowed to enter without his instructions. Previously, some maids had wanted to offer themselves as pillows to sneak in, but in the end, they turned into a dried corpse and were thrown out. From then on, no one dared to step into this courtyard without permission. Lan Luchen's gloomy expression dissipated a little when he saw the scroll of painting in the study, but his eyes gradually became filled with madness. "Little Jiao, since I can't win your heart now, then I'll first win the entire world. When that time comes, I'll share control of these 3,000 continents with you. How about it?" Lan Luchen's finger gently brushed past the face of the person in the painting. The madness in his eyes gradually turned into tenderness. "Little Jiao, everyone is pretending. Only you are real. Only when I see you do I feel that I'm still alive. You can blame me or hate me, but I will never let go. My current cultivation base is enough to look down on the entire divine enlightenment continent. That de-biming will eventually die in my hands. In the future, no one will compete with me for you. You are mine, and you can only be mine." Bai Yuechen stayed in the Bai family in fear for 2 days. On the day before he left, Lan Luochen cut off one of Bai Wanwu's fingers in front of him, and then he said indifferently, "If you can't complete the mission, I will cut off one of his fingers every month. After I cut off his fingers, I will cut off his toes. After I cut off his toes, there will be other members of the Bai family, until you complete the mission." I will definitely complete the mission. You can rest assured." Bai Yuechen was so scared that his face turned pale. He was extremely terrified of Lan Luochen. Although he had killed people before, he could not be compared to this devil in front of him. He was not a human at all. Lan Luochen did not even glance at Bai Huanwu, who was frantically taking over his fingers. He strolled around and said to Bai Yuechen, "This time on account of my mother, give him a chance to take over the finger. There won't be such a good thing next time. Oh right, if you say something that you shouldn't say, it won't be as simple as cutting off the finger." Bai Yuechen immediately swore an oath and agreed. He rolled and crawled away from the Bai family. It was not until the flying spirit tool flew hundreds of miles away that Bai Yuechen collapsed on the ground, as if he was exhausted. It was too terrifying. If he had known that Lan Luochen was such a pervert, he would have killed him right away. However, it was too late to say anything now. The lives of his parents and the rest of the people in the Bai residence were in his hands. He could only follow orders. When he thought of what Lan Luochen had asked him to do, he felt a chill run down his spine. What was this devil trying to do? Bai Yuechen tried his best to calm himself down. When he returned to the Academy of 10 Directions, he had already returned to his usual appearance. When someone asked him about the Bai family, he had been perfunctory. In his heart, he was thinking about what Lan Luochen had told him. Director Sun of the Array Division found that Bai Yuechen's recent performance had been exceptionally outstanding. Almost all the teachers and lecturers often praised Bai Yuechen in front of him. He thought to himself that Lan Luochen taking over, as the head of the Bai family, must have provoked him. It was indeed a good thing to learn after knowing shame. Therefore, when Bai Yuechen came to ask him about the array from time to time, he did not ask him to find the corresponding lecturer, but to help patiently answer it. On this day, after Bai Yuechen asked a question, he seemed to say unintentionally, "Chancellor, the defensive array of the 10 Directions Academy is second to none in the Divine Enlightenment continent. In your opinion, is there anything else that needs to be improved?" Chapter 6075 would play along. Director Sun felt that Bai Yuechen's question was quite a good one. He smiled and said, "Our ancestors of the 10 Directions Academy are very wise. It is inevitable that there are loopholes in the ordinary protective array, because it is located on land. But our protective array is built according to the water. It has an additional layer of barrier, and almost no weaknesses. If we must be picky, the water around the 6 Harmonies Waterside Pavilion has been struck by lightning several times, which is weaker than the defensive formations in other places." Bai Yuechen's eyes flickered, and he immediately said, "That doesn't matter. No force in the Divine Enlightenment continent dares to make an enemy of the 10 Directions Academy. By the way, Chancellor, I still have some doubts about the 10 Heavens 9 Earth Heaven prison formation. Can you help me answer them?" Director Sun was distracted by Bai Yuechen's next question, and did not take what he had just said to heart. That night, Bai Yuechen passed the information he had received to Lan Luochen. When Lan Luochen received the news from Bai Yuechen, the gloominess in his eyes immediately lit up. He could not wait to break through the 10 Directions Academy immediately. In this way, Yun Chujiu, who had no place to hide and shelter, would not be able to escape from his grasp. However, now was not the time. He had to be fully prepared this time. It would not be too late to attack after the other side had surrounded Di Baiming. At the same time, in a cave at the back of the mountain of the 10 Directions Academy, He Xinjie was squatting on the ground and eavesdropping with the 2 old men in high spirits. "Master, can you be a little more serious? Don't listen to these wild lovebirds whispering to each other. Hurry up and see if Bai Yuechen has any movements. I keep feeling that something is not right after he came back from the Bai family this time." Chu Feng and Zhuang Mu's old faces blushed. She was clearly the one who wanted to listen, but now she had thrown the blame on them. However, young people nowadays really dared to say such sweet words, causing them to want to look for a second spring. Under the control of Chu Feng, the disc array quickly began to operate. Then, Bai Yuechen's voice came from inside. "Master, I have already investigated. The weak point of the defensive formation of the 10 Directions Academy is in the 6 Directions Waterside Pavilion." The expressions of Chu Feng and Zhuang Mu immediately changed. Originally, when their little disciple said that Bai Yuechen had something wrong and wanted to eavesdrop, they thought that she was looking for an excuse to mess around. They did not expect to hear such shocking news. Chu Feng was F. How did he know that the weakness of the defensive formation of the 10 Directions Academy was in the 6 Directions Waterside Pavilion? Why did the Bai family ask about this? "I'll have someone arrest him now and interrogate him severely." Yun Chujiu quickly stopped him. "Master, don't alert the enemy. He must have something else to do. Let's just let him jump around for now. When the time comes, we'll beat him at his own game." "Beat him at his own game? Let's not talk about anything else. What if someone really uses the 6 Harmonies Waterside Pavilion as an opening to attack the defense array?" Chu Feng said. Yun Chuji's black eyes rolled around. "I have a good way to strengthen the 6 Harmonies Waterside Pavilion without making a sound. I wonder if you'll agree." "What way?" "The reason why the demon beasts on the 6 Harmonies Waterside Pavilion became fierce is because they absorbed the fierce energy of Tao Tai. Why don't we open the seal of Tao Tai and let the demon beasts in the surrounding waters absorb the fierce energy of Tao Tai? In this way, the demonic beasts in the surrounding waters would become extremely fierce. The most important point is that after they absorb Tao Tai's fierce qi, they will listen to Dehua's words, which is equivalent to listening to my words. When that time comes, No matter who attacks us, they will never come back. Chapter 60-76. Is she a demon? Before Chu Feng and Zhuang Mu could speak, De Hua's furious roar was heard from Yin Chujia's spiritual sense. You black-hearted evil spirit! Haven't you harmed me enough? You actually want to feed my body to those weaklings? Do you even have a conscience? De Hua was so angry that it was about to cry. Didn't it provoke her a little in her previous life? Not only was it harmed to become a 10,000-year-old single beast, but it was also imprisoned for such a long time. In the end, it even acknowledged the thief as its master, and became her spiritual beast. And that was not all. Now it was even scheming against its bones and fur. Was she a demon? You dumbass. Can I get your bones and fur back without using some tricks? You lost a little bit, but you got your bones and fur back. Isn't that worth it? Yin Chujio scolded angrily. De Hua, huh? It seemed to make sense. It only needed to give up a piece of bone to be absorbed by those idiots. The remaining bones and fur could be taken back. It was indeed worth it. After He Xinjiu comforted De Hua, she looked at Chu Feng and Zhuang Mu. The two of them discussed for a while and finally agreed to Yin Chujia's suggestion. After all, Tao Tai's soul had already signed a contract with its own disciple. It was useless to keep Tao Tai's skeleton and fur. They might as well make use of it as trash. If De Hua knew what they were thinking, it would probably be furious. You guys are the trash, your whole family is trash. Thus, Chu Feng and Zhuang Mu found President Gu and brought He Xinjiu to the Six Harmonies waterside pavilion silently. Yin Chujio released De Hua to intimidate the demonic beasts on the Six Harmonies waterside pavilion. De Hua finally heaved a sigh of relief and bared its teeth at Chu Feng and Zhuang Mu. If Yin Chujio had not warned it not to speak, it would definitely have scolded them. Chu Feng and Zhuang Mu looked at its ferocious grandmother and could not connect it to the huge creature that had been sealed. The four of them reached the end of the Red Valley. Chu Feng and Zhuang Mu took out an ancient jade pendant. After forming a complicated seal, a ray of light shot out from the round hole of the jade pendant and shone on the stone wall. A stone door appeared on the stone wall, and the four of them walked in. Inside the stone door was a winding staircase that led down to the bottom of the lake. After Chu Feng and Zhuang Mu opened another enchantment, Yin Chujio saw a huge stone room. There was a huge skeleton inside. It was covered in red fur and was fixed to the ground by 4 chains. Although there was no flesh and blood, judging from the skeleton, its head took up more than half of its body. The ratio was extremely strange. Chu Feng and Zhuang Mu took out their keys and opened the 4 chains. The huge skeleton did not collapse and remained standing in its original spot. De Hua leaped onto the skeleton with its short legs. Its heart was about to burst with joy. As long as it fused with the skeleton, even if its cultivation was not even 1,000th of its peak, it would be enough to eat the 4 idiots in front of it. Ha ha ha. This was called letting the tiger return to the mountain. This was called lifting a rock to smash its own foot. The moment it thought of that wretched girl's frightened gaze, it felt its entire body tremble. However, the fusion that it had expected did not happen. Instead, because of its collision, the skeleton collapsed on the ground and fell apart. De Hua, I know that you want to let those demonic beasts absorb your ferocious aura as soon as possible. But you don't have to be so anxious, right? Your fur is not bad. The weather has been a little cold recently, so I can make a cloak to wear. This red color is so festive, there's no need to dye it. Chapter 60-77. The whole pig was in bad shape. De Hua almost died from anger. The weather was a little cold. It was obvious that they had to use 10,000-year-old ice to cool down the temperature every day, okay? And the cloak. They weren't afraid of getting a prickly rash. Of course, that wasn't the main point. The main point was its fur, okay? De Hua wanted to store the skeleton and fur into its storage space. But then it realized that it was only a spiritual beast now. So how could it have any storage space? If it wanted to take the skeleton and fur away, there was only one choice. And that was to put them in the storage ring of this black-hearted and evil girl. De Hua suddenly felt that its whole body, no, the whole pig, was in bad shape. What was the difference between this and a meat bun beating a dog? Previously, it had been eagerly escorting them, leading the way in front, and even eagerly wanting to fuse with its body. It was all a pit. Hei Xinjiu ignored De Hua, who had no hope of becoming a beast, and stored a large pile of bones and fur into her storage ring. She did not even let go of the 4 10,000-year-old black iron chains. The corner of President Gus' eyes twitched violently. Could this troublemaker be trying to use public affairs for personal gain? What happened to letting the demonic beasts be tainted by Tao Tai's vicious aura? Why did all of them enter her storage ring? Chu Feng and Zhuang Mu were also a little confused. Just as they were about to speak, Yin Chuzhou said obediently, "Master, if we throw these bones out rashly, those beasts will definitely break their heads and bleed for these bones. This won't do. Therefore, am prepared to grind these bones and scatter the ashes. Some of them will be scattered on the island, and some of them will be made into insoluble pellets and thrown into the misty lake." De Hua rolled on the ground in anger. It was not going to live anymore. This stinky girl was too mean. This big liar, this big pig trotter, had been lying to it all this time. Xu Feng and the other two looked at De Hua rolling on the ground with their mouths agape. Was this thing really a Tao Tai? Could it be mutated? Hei Xinjiu glanced at De Hua, who was rolling on the ground, and said with her spiritual sense, "Don't worry. One of your toes is enough. If you continue to make trouble, I'll use your skull to make it." De Hua immediately stopped rolling when he heard that. "Is what you said true? You didn't lie to me this time?" "Don't worry. When have I ever lied to you? Do you still not trust my words?" Yin Chuzhou said with certainty, "De Hua, don't you feel guilty when you say that? When have you never lied to me?" However, it had no other see. After a few days, Yin Chuzhou secretly scattered the remains of Tao Tai's bones on the 6 Directions waterside pavilion and threw a lot of small pellets into the misty lake. The creature deliberately fed a few more small pellets to the Sawtooth Lake dolphin so that it could pay attention to the movements in the misty lake. De Hua watched as its bones became food for other demon beasts. The sadness in its heart was about to turn into a river. Was there any other beast in the world that was more miserable than it? It thought for a while, and finally made up its mind. "You let me out. I want to eat my bones and fur. Maybe it can make me materialize right away." Yin Chuzhou was really shocked. "Are you serious?" "Of course. Since I can increase my cultivation base by eating spirit stones, I can definitely eat my own bones and fur," De Hua said with certainty. It finally understood. If it hadn't acted earlier, these bones would definitely have been lost, not to mention the fur. That damned ball of wool had long been eyeing it like a tiger eyeing its prey. It said that it wanted to turn it into some 6-piece set. It was simply angered to death. Chapter 6078 Flying Pig. Yin Chuzhou saw that De Hua was so confident, so she thought for a while and agreed. De Hua was her spiritual beast, so she was naturally happy that De Hua could become stronger. Therefore, she only left a few small bones and fed the rest of the bones and fur to De Hua. De Hua was crying in his heart as he ate, thinking that it was a majestic beast that had actually reached the point of eating its own body. If this was to be spread out, it would be a laughing stock. De Hua ate for more than 2 hours before she swallowed all the bones and fur. De Hua burped a few times and began to wait for the materialization happily. As long as it fully materialized, it would be able to turn back into its original majestic appearance and no longer have to be a pig. However, after an hour, 2 hours, and 4 hours, the sun had set, but it did not change at all. Only its pitiful claw remained in the state of materialization. Hei Xinjiu picked up its materialized claw and scolded. "Didn't you say that you can materialize after eating it? Where is it? Spit it out." De Hua was already very sad, but after being scolded by Hei Xinjiu, it immediately howled in despair. "Who did I offend? Back then, I was also a beautiful beast that everyone loved. It was because of you that I was in such a miserable state. Why are you still scolding me?" Sob, sob, "I don't want to live anymore." Yin Chuzhou, why did she feel that this style was somewhat familiar? Although Hei Xinjiu was pained by the bones and fur that De Hua had eaten, she had no choice but to throw it to the ground after eating it. At this moment, He Xinjiu was dumbfounded when she saw a pair of fleshy wings grow out of De Hua's back at a speed visible to the naked eye. Moreover, they were the ones that had already materialized. Yin Chujio stretched out her finger and poked them. Not to mention the texture was not bad. De Hua subconsciously flapped the pair of small wings and flew up. Haha, I told you that eating them would definitely be useful. If I grow a pair of wings today, they might materialize tomorrow. Very soon, I will be able to dominate the 3,000 continents again. Ha ha ha. Alright, even if you grow a pair of wings, you will still be a flying pig. What's the point of showing off? Hurry up and land on the ground. If anyone finds out, I'll cut off your wings and roast them for food, He Xinjiu said coldly. De Hua was fuming, but she didn't dare to disobey. She persuaded herself to bear with it until it fully materialized. Then, she would deal with this stupid girl. In the following period of time, Yin Chujio and Chu Feng often went to monitor by Yichen's voice transmission talisman, but they found that he hadn't contacted Lan Luochen since the last time. However, they received some feedback from the array. Recently, Bai Yuechen had been intentionally or unintentionally testing the location of the array's core. According to Yin Chujio, Director Sun provided Bai Yuechen with some false information. At the same time, Chu Feng finally got in touch with Qichen. Qichen did not have their good luck. He had just woken up and was slowly nourished by various rare herbs. It was estimated that he would not be able to move freely for a year or so. Chu Feng gave him a reminder. After all, Lan Luochen was still a student of the Divine Enlightenment Academy. If he wanted to do something, it would be very convenient. He Xinjiu sent a message to Wu Zhao of the 10,000 Buddha's Sacred Hall, reminding him to pay more attention. As for the Alliance of 10,000 Cities and the Ironblood Massacre Alliance, since they did not have reliable candidates, they did not remind them to avoid alerting the enemy. When the storm was coming, everything was quietly dormant. Chapter 6079 was still young. Yin Chujio thought about it, and felt that Lan Luochen was most likely in cahoots with the Divine Devil Hall again. Otherwise, based on his cultivation, there was no reason for him to get the Bai family so quickly. Moreover, if he did not have a backer, he would not have any designs on the 10 Directions Academy or the entire Divine Enlightenment continent. Yin Chujio could not help but worry about Di Baiming's safety. It had been a long time since she had heard from him. Since the voice transmission talisman could not be sent out, she could only wait passively for him to contact her. Coincidentally, just as she was worried, Di Baiming sent her a message. Di Baiming was probably afraid that the voice transmission talisman would be monitored, so he only said 4 words. Is everything all right? Yin Chujio had an exquisite heart and immediately understood his worries. She directly said, I have already told Master about your matter. Master and the others are magnanimous and did not blame us. A moment later, the voice transmission talisman sounded again. All right, then you can inform the 2 Grand Elders. I'll look for an opportunity to sneak into the upper house. I have something important to tell them. After Yin Chujio agreed, she eagerly came to meet the 2 Grand Elders. Previously, she had already told them that the Beiyu was Di Baiming. Although the 2 old men were very unhappy, they could not resist He Xinjiu's coaxing. In the end, they just let it go. After the 2 heard Yin Chujio's words, they looked at each other. It seemed that the little brat's cultivation was not low. He could actually sneak in on his own. The 2 of them also wanted to see what kind of person their little disciple had chosen, so they immediately nodded in agreement. The next night, Di Baiming quietly entered the upper house and arrived at the prehistoric branch. Di Baiming had already returned to his original appearance. He was cold and noble. Even the displeased Chu Feng and Zhuang Mu could not help but praise him in their hearts. Putting everything else aside, just his bearing and appearance was extraordinary. Moreover, he was able to sneak into the upper house without alerting the guards. It was evident that his cultivation was also extraordinary. President Gus' expression was also very complicated. He had originally thought that Binyu was extraordinary. Now that he looked at it, he realized that he had only displayed 1 or 2 out of 10. He was indeed a dragon among men. President Gu glanced at the starry-eyed Hei Shinjo again, and suddenly felt as if a good cabbage had been eaten by a pig. He could not help but curse in his heart. This troublemaker might have used some bad water to trick this person into his hands. What a waste of such a char. Di Biming bowed to Chu Feng and Zhuang Mu. After all, Chu Feng and Zhuang Mu were Yin Chujia's masters, so they had to have the proper etiquette. He nodded to President Gu as a greeting. President Gu did not argue. After all, he had to bow to Yin Chujio because of his low seniority. Chu Feng snorted. You two are good at playing us two old men in your hands. Hei Shinjo quickly said with a smile. Master, as the saying goes, even the most cunning fox can't escape from a good hunter. Didn't we get exposed in the end? It means that we are not good enough in front of you two. We are still young. Chu Feng snorted coldly. You are the only one who knows how to talk. However, his face softened. Tell me, what is it that you want to talk about? Why did you have to sneak in the middle of the night? Di Biming said with a solemn face. The Bai family, the Iron Blood Alliance, and the Alliance of 10,000 Cities have joined the Divine Devil Hall. They are going to attack the 10 Directions Academy, the Divine Enlightenment Academy, and the Temple of 10,000 Buddhas. Chapter 60-80. This kid was too outstanding. Chu Feng was shocked. Fortunately, he didn't rashly send a message to the Iron Blood Alliance and the Alliance of 10,000 Cities. Otherwise, he would have really alarmed them. However, he said indifferently, although what you said is somewhat valuable, we have long discovered the clues in this matter. Is that what you're talking about? Di Biming was a little surprised, but he didn't ask in detail. He continued, other than that, I don't know what kind of cultivation technique Lan Luochen has cultivated to be able to absorb the cultivation of others for his own use. The cultivation techniques of the two of you and Senior Chi-Chen should have been absorbed by him. His current cultivation is already unfathomable. Chu Feng and the rest were immediately shocked. It was obvious that they had difficulty digesting what Di Biming had said. Yin Chujia's eyes were wide open. No wonder Lan Luochen was able to hold the Bai family in his hands so easily. It turned out that he had mastered such an evil martial art. Why did it sound like the star-sucking technique? Prince Charming, that's not right. My master and the rest were attacked by a giant hand. That giant hand could not have belonged to Lan Luochen. How do you explain that? President Gu staggered when he heard the word Prince Charming. This troublemaker was really thick-skinned. No wonder he was able to bring a handsome man home. The corners of Chu Feng and Zhuang Mu's eyes twitched. However, they did not have the time to care about this now. They were all waiting for Di Biming's answer. That giant hand most likely belongs to the Divine Devil Hall Master. Lan Luochen must have made some kind of deal with him to get the Divine Devil Hall Master to make a move. As for how the power absorbed by the giant hand was transferred to Lan Luchen's body, I have no idea. But one thing is certain, that giant hand must have some kind of restriction. Otherwise, Lan Luochen would not be able to make a move. Moreover, if my guess is right, that giant hand should not be able to make a move again in a short period of time. We don't have to worry about him for the time being. Yin Chujio frowned. Even if we don't have to worry about the palace master of the Divine Devil Hall, that Lan Dregs is not easy to deal with. He has absorbed the cultivation of my master and the other two. Maybe he has also absorbed the cultivation of others. Even you can't defeat him. Di Biming said calmly. According to his temperament, he will definitely lead his men to attack the 10 Directions Academy in a head-on battle. At that time, I will lure him away. You guys will first gather your forces to destroy his subordinates, and then go to support me. Even if his cultivation is unfathomable, when the time comes, he will be left alone, and will have no choice but to surrender. Yin Chujio glared at a certain honored warrior. I don't agree. His cultivation is much higher than yours now. If you lure him away, wouldn't you be walking into a trap? Other than that, what better way do you have? He hates me to the bone. Only I can lure him away. If not, no matter how strong the defensive formation of the Academy of 10 Directions is, it might not be able to withstand the long-lasting attack of his subordinates. This is the most reasonable way. Besides, he might not really be able to do anything to me. After all, the cultivation of others belongs to others. Even if he turns it into his own use, there will be many restrictions. Although Di Biming's tone was indifferent, his words carried the bearing of a superior. It was an attitude of looking down on the world. So what if the opponent was strong? What was there to be afraid of when the future was dangerous? Xu Feng could not help but nod repeatedly. Good kid, you have the appearance of my youth. As long as you are safe and sound this time, I will make the decision to marry my precious disciple to you. Xu Feng's true thought was that this kid was too outstanding. It was better to let his precious disciple marry him as soon as possible, so that he would not benefit others. Chapter 60-81. Xue Wuji's worries. He Xinjiu pursed her lips and did not say a word. Although she was not an evil person, she did not have such a selfless feeling. There was no reason for the pretty boy to put himself in danger for the sake of the lives of others. Blue Dregs hated the pretty boy to death and would definitely kill him. What if he was in danger? Xu Feng and the other two could also see that He Xinjiu was a little unhappy. They asked Di Biming a few more questions and tactfully left. As for Ding Wenru, she had asked Yin Chujiu to find an excuse to stay somewhere else in the evening. After Xu Feng and the other two left, He Xinjiu snorted and ignored Di Biming. She poured herself a cup of tea and sipped it. A certain someone sat at the table awkwardly, not knowing what to say. After a while, Di Biming said, "Little Jiu, I know you are worried about me, but there is no other way. Furthermore, I am not doing this for the sake of the bigger picture. I am also selfish. Lan Luchen's intentions towards you are clear as day. If you do not get rid of him, he will attack you sooner or later. Since that is the case, why don't you cut the Gordian knot and get rid of this root of trouble?" Yin Chujiu snorted coldly again, but did not say anything. Di Biming sighed. Other than that, the matter of the Divine Devil Hall should be settled. Otherwise, we will never be able to meet again. Now, the master of the Divine Devil Hall had clearly treated Lan Luochen as a knife in his hand. If we don't get rid of Lan Luochen, we will not be able to break through the Divine Devil Hall. Therefore, even if we take the risk, I can only give it a try. Yin Chujiu actually knew this in her heart, but she still didn't want Di Biming to take the risk. She pouted and asked, "Then do you still have that bone in your hand?" If he had that bone, Di Biming could use a secret technique. Although he would be very weak after using the secret technique, he could still save his life at the critical moment. Di Biming shook his head. "I thought I would find the bone in the ruins of miracles last time, but I didn't expect to find the Devil Emperor's mask. But don't worry, Xue Wuji's current strength is not bad. Together with Enfeng, the three of us can at least delay Lan Luochen for a while. It's not too late to help us after you finish the battle." Yin Chujiu saw that Di Biming had already said so she didn't say anything else. "Oh right, did Wu Jias had see Chi-Chi recently? Where is Chi-Chi?" Di Biming curled his lips. He really wanted to see him, but unfortunately, he didn't get what he wanted. He would sigh every few days. However, he broke some seals because he was in a bad mood. If he didn't suddenly show his power, we wouldn't have been able to break out of the encirclement. He broke another part of the seals? Did he remember anything? Yin Chujiu asked curiously. Di Biming raised his eyebrows. Ever since he remembered a part of his memories, his mood became even worse, because he vaguely remembered that there was a marriage contract in the demon race. He was afraid that Yin Qi would divorce him after she found out. Puff! Yin Chujiu immediately spat out the tea in her mouth. What the hell? There was a marriage contract in the demon race? Really? What is his identity in the demon race? Who is he engaged to? He only has a vague impression. He can't tell the details, and it might not be true. Besides, the demon race and the human race don't interfere with each other. As long as he doesn't return to the demon continent, it's nothing. He's just worried that Yin Qi will deal with him, Di Biming said. Chapter 60-82 was all about pig trotters. He Xinjiu clicked her tongue and said, "I have to say that Chi-Chi really knows how to control a man. Such an unruly man like Wu Ji was actually managed so obediently. Most importantly, Chi couldn't be bothered with him at all. Although Di Biming had never met Yun Qi before, he felt that she was probably not an ordinary person, since she was his daughter-in-law's best friend. It was normal for her to attract Xue Wuji. He Xinjiu blinked and said gloomily, "You men are indeed hogs. Didn't Qiang say that you had a lover in your previous life? Let me tell you something. You can solve the problems that you have caused yourself. If someone really comes looking for you, don't come and cause trouble in front of me." Di Biming did not expect that the fire would burn his body in the end. He immediately said with a solemn face, "I've told you before. Even if I haven't awakened all my memories, I'm sure that I only like you in my previous life and now. There is no one else." Although He Xinjiu was very happy in her heart, she snorted coldly and said, "HMPH. That's nice. I'll see you later." After chatting for a while, He Xinjiu returned the little perverted dragon to Di Biming. "Return it to its original owner. Maybe it can be of use when you fight with the blue dregs. Alas, it's a pity that I'm still too weak to help you. If only I had a way to stimulate my potential. When the time comes, we can definitely defeat the blue dregs together." He Xinjiu counted with her fingers. It had been a long time since she had stimulated her killing intent. It seemed that she had never displayed such an awesome state since she arrived at the Divine Enlightenment continent. "I'd rather you didn't have the chance to unleash your potential," Di Biming said indifferently. The reason was simple. Every time Yin Chujiu unleashed her potential, it was because she was extremely sad or angry. His heart ached for her. He Xinjiu was so smart. Although Di Biming didn't say it, she could guess what he was thinking, and she couldn't help but feel sweet in her heart. This guy looked at a handsome face under the candlelight, and his lustful heart started to stir. He started to feel extremely resentful towards Gowei Batsao. Gowei Batsao, which had been scolded 8 times, was so angry that its leaves started to twitch. It had done so many good things for her. Had she forgotten all about it? It only knew how to think about those trivial things all day long. How shameless. The lecherous heart was not a blockhead. Seeing He Xinjiu's restless little eyes, its eyes started to heat up. Just as the two of them were filled with pink bubbles, He Xinjiu suddenly felt very, very hungry. The desire for food far exceeded the lecherous heart. He Xinjiu was so angry that she immediately let Dehua out. "Eat, eat, eat. Why don't you die from eating?" Dehua felt a certain cold gaze, and quickly knelt on the ground. It waved its small meaty wings and explained, "I didn't want this either. But I suddenly felt very hungry. By the way, I haven't eaten anything since I ate myself." Di Biming. What did she mean by since it ate itself? Yin Chujiu kicked Dehua's body. "Get out and eat." Dehua dared not speak out of anger. It crawled outside while shivering, waiting for He Xinjiu to feed it. Yin Chujiu threw a few corpses of demon beasts to it, and then told Di Biming what had happened. HMPH. This dumbass was afraid that I would feed its bones and fur to other demon beasts, so it ate them all. In the end, it grew a pair of useless wings. Chapter 6083 was about to begin. Dehua, who was kicked out, cursed in his heart as he ate. "You're useless. Your entire family is useless. I'll kill you after I materialize." However, when he thought of the tragic experience in his previous life, he suddenly lost his confidence. Even if he regained his strength, he probably wouldn't be able to defeat this insidious and despicable girl. The more Dehua thought about it, the more miserable it became. It simply turned its grief and indignation into appetite, and gobbled up the corpses of the demon beasts. Seeing that Dehua's appetite was even greater than before, Yin Chujiu hugged a certain deity's waist and cried, "Prince Charming, why do you think I'm so miserable? I raise 1 or 2 trash, especially this Dehua. She's eating me until I'm broke." A certain deity was also unable to explain He Xinjiu's silly cuteness. Each of them had a great background, yet they were all trash now. Dehua felt relieved after hearing that. Damn it! I'll eat you to death. Therefore, this guy ate himself until he was so full that he couldn't even close his small wings. Then he burped and said weakly, "I burp eat burp am full." Yun Chuzhou got angry when she saw Dehua's rotund appearance. She kicked him away and scolded him for a few more words before she calmed down. Yuan Gungun, who was standing in front of Dehua, looked at Yun Chuzhou. After being disturbed by Dehua, this guy's lust was gone. He yawned and climbed onto the bed before falling asleep. After using it, he was thrown aside. In the next few days, Di Biming stayed in the wilderness branch and accompanied Yun Chuzhou when he was not cultivating. If it were not for the hidden worries of the Divine Devil Hall and Lan Luochen, He Xinjiu would have thought that such a small life was not bad. Chu Feng and Zhuang Mu felt sorry for their little disciple. Now was a time of turmoil, and they could not collect lightning strike stones. So they asked President Gu to take out more than half of the lightning strike stones stored in the academy for Yun Chuzhou to cultivate. Unfortunately, this guy's demand for the power of lightning was too great. After absorbing all of it, he only climbed from the 4th level to the 6th level of the divine summoning. On this day, Chu Feng once again heard by Yichen's voice transmission talisman. Lan Luochen had instructed him in the voice transmission talisman that he would personally lead people to attack the 10 Directions Academy after half a month. After the battle had begun, he had asked Bai Yuechen to think of a way to destroy the core of the protective array. He had also told him that Jian Zhuyu, Jiang Shuangli, and the others were also his people. If necessary, he would ask them for help. President Gu and the others couldn't help. If it weren't for Yin Qingcheng, no, Yun Chuzhou being alert, the 10 Directions Academy might really be doomed this time. When no one was around, Chu Feng said to Zhuang Mu, "On the 15th of the month, 10,000 beasts roar, Tao Tai comes out, disaster is coming, and all things are destroyed. The ethereal soul, the reclusive Tao, 2 reincarnations, disaster is hard to break. Say, if it weren't for our precious disciple, let alone the 10 Directions Academy, the entire divine enlightenment continent might have fallen into the hands of the divine demon hall. Could our precious disciple be that ethereal soul?" Zhuang Mu said with a serious expression. "Whether she is or not, let's forget these words in the future." Chu Feng was stunned at first, then he nodded. Yes, if it was spread out, it might not be a good thing for his disciple. After all, the hearts of people could not withstand the test. Many people believed in non-humans, and their hearts were bound to be different. When that time came, it would cause unnecessary trouble for his precious disciple. Half a month passed in the blink of an eye. On this day, the army led by Lan Luochen was like a hot knife through butter. They did not encounter any obstacles, and they charged all the way to the periphery of the 10 Directions Academy. Moreover, the main force was concentrated in the water area of the 6 Directions Waterside Pavilion. Although President Gu was mentally prepared, he still acted very seriously. "Lan Luochen, what do you mean by this?" Chapter 6084 promised you 1,000 miles of red makeup. Lan Luochen said coldly to President Gu, who had hurried over from the defensive array. "What do you mean? The world will unite after a long period of separation. The days when the world is divided should be over. From now on, the divine enlightenment continent will be under the control of the divine demon hall." President Gu's face was livid with anger. "Nonsense. Lan Luochen, I advise you to rein in your horses before you make a big mistake. Moreover, the defensive formation of the 10 Directional Academy is not a decoration. It is a fool's dream if you want to break through it." Lan Luochen raised his head and laughed. His gloomy face was tinged with madness. "Big mistake. What is right and what is wrong? It is just that the winner is the king, and the loser is the bandit. Your defensive formation is not worth mentioning in my eyes." As Lan Luochen spoke, he raised his hand, and a huge spiritual chi-chilin pounced towards the protective array of the 10 Directions Academy. Under its bite, the protective array actually started to tremble slightly. Although it was not enough to break, it was enough to make President Gu pale with fright. Previously, when Di Biming said that Lan Luchen's cultivation was already unfathomable, he did not quite believe it. But now it seemed that it was actually true. Fortunately, they were already prepared. Otherwise, the 10 Directions Academy would have definitely been breached. Lan Luochen saw the shock on President Gus's face and coldly snorted. If you don't want the 10 Directions Academy to be reduced to nothingness, call Yan Qingqing over. I have something to say to her. President Gu hesitated for a moment and nodded. Okay, I will ask her to come over now. In fact, He Xinjiu had been on the Six Harmonies waterside pavilion the whole time, and she was bleeding herself. She had wanted to bleed Di Biming for a rainy day, but Di Biming had been watching her all day, so she didn't have the chance to do it. Taking advantage of the chaos today, this guy gritted his teeth and started bleeding. By the time Di Biming came back after checking the situation outside, He Xinjiu had already bled more than 10 small porcelain bottles. He Xinjiu stuffed all the small porcelain bottles into Di Biming's hands. You must come back alive, or I'll turn your head into a green prairie. Di Biming's eyes were a little sour. He hugged He Xinjiu tightly in his arms. Wait for me. I'll definitely come back. I'll grant you 1,000 miles of red makeup and protect you for the rest of your life. He Xinjiu pursed her lips. Okay. At this moment, the news of President Gu arrived. The two of them had no choice but to separate and carry out their own tasks. 15 minutes later, He Xinjiu took a boat to the waters of the Six Harmonies waterside pavilion to meet with President Gu. When Lan Luochen saw Yan Chujiu, the madness in his eyes was immediately replaced with gentleness. Little Jiu, as long as you agree to leave with me, I will spare the lives of the people from the 10 Directions Academy. Yan Chujiu looked at Lan Luochen with a cold gaze. Right now, she only had hatred and contempt for him. Lan Luochen, if you still have half a shred of humanity, stop immediately. We can still be strangers. Otherwise today it will be either you die or I live. President Gu, who was at the side, cursed in his heart. Wasn't his death the same as yours? In any case, it was your life. The light in Lan Luchen's eyes dimmed. Stranger? Little Jiu, I would rather give up a stable life for you. I would rather be pointed at by thousands of people for you. Do you think I'm a stranger? Yan Chujiu smiled coldly, and her tone was full of sarcasm. For me? You're only doing this for your own obsession. If you really want my best, you shouldn't keep pestering me. If you're really as affectionate as you say you are, you should learn to let go. Lan Luochen, this is your last chance. Withdraw your troops. From now on, we'll never see each other again. Just pretend we never met. Chapter 6085 was in the midst of an intense battle retreat. Never speak to each other again. Little Jiu, you are mine, and you can only be mine. Even if you are unable to accept me now, when I rule the 3,000 continents, you will understand my true feelings towards you. President Gu, immediately capture her, and hand her over to me, and I will spare your lives. How about it? Lan Luchen's malicious gaze looked at President Gu. At this moment, President Gu was cursing in his heart. He didn't expect this troublemaker to be able to attract bees and butterflies. This Lan Luochen was going crazy because of her. Hearing Lan Luchen's words, he said coldly, Senior Uncle Yan is a member of the 10 Directional Academy. How can he hand her over to you? If you want to fight, then fight. Lan Luochen said contemptuously, stubborn. With a wave of his hand, the soldiers behind him began to attack the defensive formation of the 10 Directional Academy. The defensive formation began to tremble slightly under the countless attacks of spiritual power and the biting of spiritual beasts. Especially after Lan Luchen's spiritual Qilin joined in, the trembling became even more intense. President Gu looked at Yan Chujiu worriedly. Uncle Master Yan, where are the reinforcements you mentioned earlier? Yan Chujiu curled the corner of her mouth and released Dehua. Dehua flapped its fleshy wings and flew around President Gu in a circle. It even specially used its solidified little claw to pat President Gu's shoulder. President Gu, when did this thing grow another pair of wings? A few days ago, Yan Chujiu had brought Dehua, the mascot, to establish a temporary contract with all the demonic beasts that were contaminated by its ferocious aura. However, for the sake of safety, she still released Dehua to deter those demonic beasts. With Yan Chujiu's order, countless aquatic demonic beasts gathered under the nearby water surface and attacked those soldiers of the Divine Devil Hall. Those people of the Divine Devil Hall were caught unprepared. The main reason was that they never dreamed that these aquatic demonic beasts would suddenly attack them in a frenzy. Lan Luochen immediately frowned, and immediately contacted by Yuechen. However, he found that the sound transmission talisman could not be successfully sent. His heart immediately sank. Could it be that the 10 Directions Academy had long realized that something was wrong? However, he did not take it to heart. Even if the Academy of 10 Directions had long been prepared, with his current cultivation, it was only a matter of time. He temporarily gave up on the offensive-defensive array, and let the spiritual Qi Qilin attack the aquatic demonic beasts instead. He himself had a water spiritual root, and the Qilin was also an aquatic spiritual beast. In the blink of an eye, the surface of the lake was dyed red by the blood of the demonic beasts. President Gu couldn't help but reveal a worried expression. Lan Luchen's strength was too terrifying. If this continued, those aquatic demonic beasts would definitely be completely wiped out. At this moment, a clear and cold voice sounded from the battlefield. It wasn't loud, but it entered everyone's ears. Lan Luochen, do you dare to fight with me? When Lan Luochen heard this voice, the gloominess on his face became even more intense. He looked up and saw a white-clothed man standing on a small boat not far away with his hands behind his back. The man's expression was cold, and no emotions could be seen in his eyes. However, in Lan Luchen's eyes, there was a strong sense of mockery and provocation. "Di Baiming." Lan Luochen said these 3 words through gritted teeth. He originally thought that he had been trapped by the Divine Devil Hall, but he did not expect that he had actually escaped. Originally, he did not want to take action personally to prevent Little Nine from resenting him. However, he could not care less now. Only by killing Di Baiming could he make Little Nine give up completely. He immediately flew up and directly threw a palm towards Di Baiming. Chapter 6086. He had never been afraid of anyone. Di Baiming sneered. Just as Lan Luchen's palm wind was about to reach him, his entire body was like an arrow that had left the bow as he flew into the distance. Lan Luochen naturally wouldn't give up just like that. As he chased, he released his spirit energy Qilin. Di Baiming released his own spirit energy ice dragon. Although he didn't have a water spirit root, ice was formed from water. The ice dragon's combat strength on the surface of the lake wasn't weak either. Moreover, he also released the little yellow dragon to assist at the side. The little yellow dragon felt miserable in its heart. The little girl's spirit beast was well-fed, and when there was danger, there was still the little girl blocking in front of it. When it was here, it was fine. If it had nothing to do, it would be thrown into a pile of demonic beasts to fend for itself. When it was fighting, it still had to charge into the battle. They were both spirit beasts, so why was it so miserable? Di Baiming knew that he was no match for Lan Luochen, so he retreated as he fought. He wanted to lure him to the shore. The 6 Directions waterside pavilion was really not close to the shore. Even if he took a boat, it would take a night. Fortunately, Di Baiming had the water-repellent bead that Yun Chuzhou gave him, so he could move freely in the water. Lan Luochen also had the water-repellent bead. The two of them fought from the surface to the water, and Di Baiming gradually fell into a disadvantage. Lan Luchen's eyes were filled with killing intent. This time, he had to kill Di Baiming no matter what. It didn't matter even if he delayed the attack on the 10 Directions Academy, because of killing him. With his cultivation, he could make a comeback at any time. Lan Luochen thought as he stepped up his attack. Seeing that Di Baiming gradually lost the ability to retaliate, Lan Luchen's face showed a smug look. Before this, even if Little Nine had fallen in love with him, so what? The winner would be the one who laughed until the end. Time would forget everything. He had enough patience to wait. Sooner or later, Little Nine would change his mind. Just as he was feeling proud, killing intent came from both sides. He hurriedly used his spiritual power to protect his body and rushed forward. Di Baiming, who originally didn't have the ability to fight back, suddenly turned around and slapped at him. Lan Luchen's heart sank. At this moment, the Qilin was entangled by the ice dragon and had no way to come over and rescue him. The lesser of the two powers, He could only dodge Di Biming's palm and endure the attack from the left side. Lan Luchen's left shoulder was hit, and his face instantly turned pale. Only then did he realize that the two people who came were also old acquaintances. One was Xue Wuji, and the other was Enfeng. He sneered while fighting with the three people. Di Biming, I thought you were some amazing person, but it turns out that you are so despicable. Not only did you sneak attack, but you also won more than you won. What kind of hero are you? Without waiting for Di Biming to speak, Xue Wuji cursed. Bah! You are worse than a pig and a dog, and you have the nerve to say such a big thing. You are not a good person, yet you want to be a dog of the divine devil hall. Yet you still have the face to bark here. Xue Wuji had not been in a good mood recently. It had been a long time since he had seen that unfaithful woman, and it had also been a long time since he had seen his precious son. The most annoying thing was that there might even be some broken engagement. Just thinking about it made him feel bad. He just so happened to vent all his anger on Lan Luochen, scolding him with all his might. Lan Luchen's face was filled with malevolence. Xue Wuji, what kind of a good person do you think you are? Aren't you also Di Biming's dog? You are the fucking dog. This is called a good bird choosing a tree to perch on. What do you know? Xue Wuji scolded. It was not that he was bragging. Other than little sister Jiao, he had never been afraid of anyone. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.